Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first semifinals of the $100,000 N4C main event. We are starting the day with a best of 7 between Beastyqt and VortiX. Beasty and VortiX played against each other in the first round of the Swiss stage, and that ended up with Beasty beating VortiX 3-1. In the end, the Beasty finished second place in the Swiss stage, and this means that he got directly into this semifinals, whereas VortiX had to take down DeMusliM in the quarterfinals to get here. We are kicking off the day with a Hill and Dale game. Spawning on the right side is going to be VortiX playing as the blue color, and on the left side it is going to be Beastyqt playing as the red, both players using the Holy Roman Empire to start with. Looks like we only have one scout operating here, at least for the time being, for Beasty. And on the other side, there seems to be only just one scout as well for VortiX, although there's a second one. And it looks like he's going to capitalize on that big time, because so far he has been a lot more successful collecting sheep. In fact, there is basically no sheep left over here for Beasty to collect. That's a great start for VortiX, who yesterday against DeMusliM probably played his best set so far. Before that quarterfinals, I probably would have said that I think Beasty has the upper hand in this one, but if VortiX can play the level he played against DeMusliM yesterday, this is going to be very difficult for Beasty. Especially because I do believe that VortiX does have some hidden strategies coming into this one, whereas for Beasty, as we talked about it before, he's the type of meta player that really doesn't bring in a lot of new and out-of-the-box strategies. He's just going to play as standard as humanly possible. This being said, this is a map that really favors the strengths of Beasty, simply because this is a map that's slower paced. This is a map where you can really start rolling layer after layer after layer, so play that in the Beasty style. I would think that if this wasn't the first map to play on, this would be a map where Beasty probably selects it as a home map, so this is definitely a map advantage at the beginning here for Beasty. Not a big thing, of course, especially given the fact that VortiX was much more successful collecting sheep. Looking at the bases of the players real quick, one thing to quickly note is that all of the gold mines for our red player Beasty are on the southern part of his map. This could be concerning if enemies actually get on top of his hill. The berries are to the north, both forests are to the north, so his resources are sort of split in between the north and the south, but it's not an even balance. You have a certain resource, gold, being all on the south, and another resource being on the north, and it looks like we do have the two scouts coming in here for VortiX. He knows very well that he's got two scouts over one, and he can start harassing those gold miners. Now, one of the things that you might see over here is that if you hit the villager as he is swinging the pickaxe, you can stop the animation of the villager gathering gold, and what this results in is that the villager isn't able to mine gold. This is technically not animation cancelling, it's just the fact that when you hit a villager that's working, it's going to be unable to continue that working process. I think it only works for mining though, and this is a great way for VortiX to slow down the opponent quite substantially, to be honest. Beasty has been mining gold for quite a long time, he's at 300, so it's possible that he was thinking about maybe even professional scouts here ferrying in the second patch of deer, although he has dropped his mill right next to his Aachen Chapel on the hunt. So you gotta wonder what exactly is he going to do with 300 gold in the bank, unless he wants to go straight fast castle. It's possible he just wants to mine the gold as fast as possible, and then later on, just switch entirely to food. Still, his gold miners are being harassed, but I think that scout... Okay, the scout is out. The scout is out. For a brief moment, it looked like VortiX's scout was gonna get trapped, but it looks like he's getting away, and VortiX right now is being very annoying with that one scout that he still has left over there. The Prelate can heal up the villagers, so that's not a problem. It's all about the harassment that's being done, and behind this one, of course, VortiX has an untouched economy. Now, it very much seems like VortiX is banking up a ton of gold himself, and there are indeed no professional scouts upgrades. So what I'm suspecting is that both players will just mine the gold they need for Castle Age, and then pretty much just pull all the villagers to food. Because the idea is that they don't want their gold mine exposed to aggression, they just want to mine it as fast as possible, and then divert all the villagers to food, which is a little safer. Barracks not complete for Beasty, he's dropping the first spearman right now, that should discourage the aggression from his opponent VortiX. But of course, VortiX doesn't really want to push this one, it's just the fact that he wants to be a little annoying as long as it is possible. And of course, this means that VortiX did not have to invest into barracks at the beginning. Now he sees the barracks of the opponent, so he's gonna have to respect the fact that there is going to be spearmen on the battlefield, and if that's the case, knights from him could actually encounter some resistance as he's trying to fight for relics. Speaking of which, the relic spawns are fairly even. You do have two close to the base of Beasty, two close to the base of VortiX, and then one in between them. This is probably as good as it gets for the players. Fairly balanced spawn over here. And it looks like VortiX is going to have a head start going into Castle Age here. As we said before, he did not have to build a barracks. His gold miners weren't harassed, so that's the 30-second-ish advantage that he's gaining himself. The other reason why he's going up to Castle Age a little faster than his opponent is because Beastyqt has gotten the wheelbarrow technology, not something that VortiX has gotten. And wheelbarrow is a fairly expensive technology at the beginning of the game. Obviously, for an HRE eco, it's not really difficult to push it out, but it's going to delay your Castle Age a tiny bit, and as you see, while Beastyqt is still piling up the resources for Castle, VortiX is already on the way. Now, here's the problem for Beastyqt. He doesn't really have any army on the battlefield. Oh, look at that. Split screen. This is a new feature from the spectators. There's going to be a stable coming in for Beastyqt. You could see that for a brief moment. So he knows very well that he's gonna need some mobility, some map presence to be able to kill those monks. Because right now he only has 1 or 2 spearmen. By the time he gets there, to the relics, VortiX will be able to pick up 1 or 2. Now, VortiX is going to encounter one scout with that prelate, and it looks like he... Did he lose that scout? It's possible he lost that scout. I'm not exactly sure because, well, VortiX switched away from that position in just a matter of seconds. Looked like that is still alive. So the scout is still alive, and you can see that VortiX is adding archers. Not something that you see every day from the HRE, but it's definitely a thing that you can do if you're afraid of your opponent having spears. Now, as I said, Beastyqt is building a stable, so he is going to have horsemen, he's going to have knights on the battlefield too, but VortiX has a head start going into the relic collection part of the game, as he's also securing that sacred site. I think he just randomly passed that, and he's using one prelate to heal up the other. You could see that for a brief moment. Back there. Yeah, there it is. He used the prelate that's moving north to try and heal the prelate that's escaping right now. Archers are being pulled, they should be able to pick off the spearman, and it looks like VortiX will secure the first relic over here, and currently he has 3 relics being brought in. You can see that the overlay was also updated to a tiny bit. Now I assume this means that he's bringing in 3, but he's got 0 garrisoned right now. That's still a pretty good start for him, of course. In the HR emitters, you just want to fight for the relics. 4 relics now being picked up. That's a huge head start. He delivered 1 to his Ragnitz Cathedral right now, and I think he's bringing in 3 more indeed. That's the 5th relic that's being picked up right now by Beastyqt, so he's going to have 1 being brought back, but he needs to find a way to kill at least 1 more monk from VortiX, because it would be a big disaster if VortiX got 4 relics, not only 3. First horseman coming out, VortiX might have to pop a Vololo over there to push it back. Looks like Vololo has not been popped yet, and now there goes the Vololo. There goes the Vololo, and it looks like Beastyqt is going to chicken out, he's going to disengage, he's going to just leave the battlefield for the time being. Now he's coming back for that prelate. No cavalry on the battlefield right now for VortiX. He's got some archers, and you see, this is the chance that Beastyqt was waiting for. He's going to kill that prelate, and his own prelate is coming in straight away. This is a very difficult relic to take away now from VortiX, because VortiX is so close to this relic with his base. You would think that this is something that VortiX will be able to bring in, but nope, because Beastyqt has the prelate nearby. He knew very well that he can kill that prelate, and he sent in his own to try and pick that relic up, which means that he's going to get up to 2 relics. Still not an ideal scenario, because his opponent has 3 garrison now, but at the end of the day, it almost turned out to be 4-1, so compared to a 4-1, a 3-2 is still acceptable here for Beastyqt. Now, one thing that VortiX was doing is that he didn't make any cavalry. He barely used any resources for army production. He made 3 archers and that was it. So part of the reason why you're seeing his resource bank skyrocket like this is because he's barely investing into anything. And I do think that he just wants to go for a super fast Imperial. Beastyqt has the same idea, but of course Beastyqt spent some food making army. He can capitalize on that one quite easily though, because as you see, he's capturing sacred sites, and that will be a great way to compensate for the fact that you have 1 less relic. You're seeing a market being built right now by VortiX. He's floating 2,000 gold, he wants to go into Imperial. Because his eco is so unbalanced, this actually buys some time for Beastyqt to balance out his own eco as well, and Beastyqt is not gonna be that far behind in Imperial Age timing either. Villager count? Heavily in the favor of Beastyqt actually, 34-32. Not a massive difference, but probably this comes from the fact that VortiX made quite a lot of prelates. Because if you think about that, VortiX picked up 4 relics right at the beginning of Castle Age, which means that he had 4 prelates roaming the map already for relics. As he's going up to Imperial, he's simultaneously dropping barracks as well, so we're probably going to see some men-at-arms, or potentially spearmen depending on what unit composition Beastyqt goes for. I would think that ultimately the goal for the HRE player here is to go men-at-arms. But if Beastyqt is going heavy on the cavalry department, we might see some spearmen from VortiX, and then Beastyqt would probably react to that using Landsknechte. Imperial Age coming in at pretty much identical times, so far, it wasn't really noticeable that Beastyqt is down one relic, and his timing to Imperial is going to be just as good as VortiX's one. Looks like villagers are moving out to make a second layer of walls. There's a bit of an aggression coming in from Beastyqt, but the biggest result of this one is just the fact that he can secure the sacred sites, and you see, he isn't messing around. That's what I was referring to. Your opponent is sitting inside his base, might as well cap all 3 sacred sites. Even if you can't hold all 3 of them for the rest of the game, you're going to get a ton of gold income from that, and that helps you compensate for the fact that you have 1 less relic here. In fact, if Beastyqt captures all 3 sacred sites, he's going to have the same amount of gold income from sacred sites and relics as his opponent. VortiX is floating a ton of gold right now. One of the things that you can consider here when you have so much gold, and we are so early in this game, is start mass buying food and food. Let me tell you why, especially food. It's because the market is a global thing. Looks like villagers were mismicroed here a tiny bit. Spearman is now out, so it should be able to push away that cavalry. So the market is global, which means that if I buy food, the price also increases for the opponent. If I have a ton of gold right now I'm not using, you could justify buying some food at the beginning because I'm going to have better exchange rates than my opponent will. At some point, some people will start buying food inevitably because both of them are floating a lot of gold. But if you're VortiX right now, having like 2,000 gold in the bank just a split second ago, you could justify buying some food even if you're not using it immediately for the sake of just having better exchange rates. He's dropping the farms right now and he's trying to move towards the central sacred site, knowing that he's gonna have to start decapping it because the opponent has started the sacred site countdown. Looks like we're seeing some cavalry still being out there for Beastyqt. He's got the knight, he's got the horseman. Spearmen are out in larger and larger numbers for VortiX. Knight gets taken down, the horseman gets away. No more cavalry is being added by Beastyqt as we speak. Whereas on the other side, it looks like it's just spearmen being added by VortiX. So he's thinking that his opponent is gonna go cavalry. And I would think that Beastyqt will preemptively go Landsknechte. Indeed, there it goes. There's the Landsknechte coming out for him. Forestry also coming in as an update. But the key thing here is that now VortiX will have to react to those Landsknechte. And that's not something that he has the tools to do right now. Now, he has an archer rank, so technically speaking, he can go archers, and those work quite well against the Landsknechte. And he has to expect those. Now, I'm seeing VortiX sending villagers to stone, and speaking of stone, his opponent Beastyqt has been mining stone quite relentlessly. So I'm suspecting that Beastyqt is going to start crawling forward with stone walls, dropping some keeps everywhere. Just play typical Beastyqt game. Slow and steady, turtle forward. That's his playstyle, and that playstyle often works very well against any opponent, and especially on this map, it could be quite effective. Looks like VortiX is successful neutralizing all sacred sites. He's also capping the one on the south, and as things stand, he's still just going for spears. And Beastyqt, that should be a forward castle, I do believe. The question is, where is he placing it, and whether or not he can actually finish it. The Landsknechte is cleaning up the spears in the middle, and you gotta wonder if Beastyqt will try to castle the middle. Little ambitious, but he's got elite Landsknechte here escorting the villagers. And indeed, this is a fight that currently VortiX cannot take. Looks like Beastyqt is just going for the berries. This is a great castle spot, however, because not only do you have it close to the berries, it's close to the board, and that's even more valuable. In fact, that is what Beastyqt should start with. Current villager count is 81 to 76, so that's rather even, as now you're seeing VortiX starting to add the Landsknechte. Of course, in an even war of infantry, it's going to be difficult for Beastyqt to overcome the opponent, because of course, VortiX does have one extra relic in the Regnitz Cathedral, and now VortiX is also having some sacred sites for him. Looks like the one in the middle won't be capped, and Beastyqt does have a prelate out there to cap it himself. 2 sacred sites right now for VortiX, and just one will be captured by Beastyqt. Army still mostly Landsknechte here for Beastyqt, whereas on the other side it looks like the army production halted for a tiny bit here for VortiX. He's still only at 2 Landsknechte. He's got 8 more queued up, marching drills already coming in, and he's also making some bombards. So it looks like we're going to see a ton of Landsknechte over here. You gotta wonder if either of these players will start mixing in something to try and swing the battle in their favor, because, of course, this is just going to be an even trade of infantry. They would just massacre each other. Low HP units with a lot of area damage, they would just wipe out each other's armies. So you gotta wonder if either of these players is thinking about something else to add to support such an army. Talk about hand cannoneers, talk about archers, maybe even mangonels, but you will need something to support your Landsknechte to win you the battle. Because right now, the armies of the players basically allow them to draw battles, but they can't really win a fight right now. Bit of a positional warfare going on, as both sides are trying to neutralize sacred sites and then conversely cap it after. So far, economies are rather even. VortiX does have a slight lead though. He's also mining stones, he's getting closer and closer to dropping his own first castle, and there is the bombard coming in. Looking at the army numbers, those are fairly promising on both sides, but I don't think that VortiX is gonna have enough army to escort that bombard to try and take that castle down. Beasty stonewalled his starting base, so he's starting off with his regular stonewall crawl, and he's got enough stone for a second keep. You gotta wonder if he's going to start dropping that close to that first sacred site in the middle. Looks like that's gonna be an ambitious castle coming in here from VortiX. We're going to have a standoff in the middle. Beasty is adding Coverins, which is a great response to the bombards here. He's also grabbing elite army tactics and boiling oil. So he's gonna have a very nice combination of defensive weapons and upgrades available for this position. Middle castle now being shelled by the bombard. It's being fired upon by the castle actually, but villagers are repairing it, so there is no problem, no harm done on VortiX's forces. Looks like there is no repair villagers here for Beasty. In fact, he pulled all the villagers away from the berries as well. He's instead switching to the south, securing that sacred site for himself with a new keep. This Sprout might get caught in a crossfire. And as things stand, it looks like Beasty is giving up on that central position for the time being. Now, one thing that he needs to be careful about here is that while he will have a foothold on the south, he's going to have a castle here. We have to keep in mind that his opponent with such a force could just spearhead into his base right away. This is something that Beasty will have to consider. That by losing this castle, his base would be wide open. Coverin opens fire on the bombard. Looks like the villagers were not repairing, and that means that the bombard goes down. The castle is on fire, but Beasty's got repair villagers, and it looks like Beasty was gonna be able to hold that castle. That's a huge hold. Looks like VortiX looked away for a split second that he didn't notice his bombard getting picked off by the Coverin. Beasty saves his castle, and now he's trying to bash his way into the base of the opponent. Second layer coming in for VortiX as he's trying to stop those Landsknechte from coming in. That would be the first major raid of the game, as in the middle you're seeing some bombardment placements being placed on the castles, new Coverins coming in for Beasty. He's still mining stone quite actively, so he's working towards additional castles. Looks like Landsknechte actually wipe out quite a lot of villagers here behind that wall. New layer once again being added, the army of VortiX being dispatched to deal with this. Remember, the Landsknechte are able to take down those villagers very easily because they do have area damage, so if they can hit one villager, they can damage multiple villas here. Looks like Landsknechte are running up hills. This is not a fight that Beasty wants to take. You see, he's trying to split his infantry because the larger the crowd, the more effective the Landsknechte are. And as you see, it's just going to be a mutual annihilation. In the end, Beasty is going to get cleaned up here. The bigger question is the northern side, because now he's got Coverins to take down the bombards of VortiX. VortiX is floating a ton of resources, but he's low on gold. Whereas on the other side, Beasty's eco is a little more balanced. He's got stone available for a new keep. And I wonder, for now he's just repairing this keep over here. The northern sacred site is in the hands of VortiX. Two sacred sites, the one in the middle and the one on the south, belong to Beasty for the time being. We got some mangonels out there, and those could be dangerous against the forces of Beasty. But truth being told, I like pure Landsknechte and some men-at-arms mixed in with Coverin support. That's probably the better recomposition, because the Coverins can easily get rid of the mangonels, and then your infantry is just going to take down whatever is left for VortiX's forces. And you see, while the men-at-arms won't do area damage like the Landsknechte, they are a very sturdy infantry unit as the mangonel opens fire on the villagers. And you can see that Beasty was thinking about some stonewall sections being placed over here. Stonewall towers are banned for the entire tournament, so you can't just crawl up with stonewall towers. But you can go layer after layer of stone walls. That's Beasty's playstyle on this map. And he hasn't started yet. But if he starts rolling, it's going to be very difficult to counterattack for VortiX. Because the entire concept of Beasty's strategy is that he's just like an onion. Layer after layer after layer of walls. And it's very difficult to do any kind of damage on it. Because you would have to get through multiple layers of walls to do any damage to the eco. New castle being built in the central area by Beastyqt, as we do see the infantry of him trying to burn down the walls once again. VortiX will react with some stone walls, but I wonder if those stone walls will be completed in time. This is going to be a tight one. Looks like the stone wall foundations are being placed. Villagers will be there in time, so the infantry cannot get in. Infantry was also adjusted by VortiX, so he had some forces over there to clean it up. But now Beastyqt isn't going to be able to get into the opponent's base. He tried to get some stone walls up while the opponent was distracted, as we see some culverins appear on the battlefield for VortiX too. Villagers will be mostly taken down over here, so the walls will be incomplete. But getting those walls up would have been very effective, because that would limit the movement of VortiX quite substantially. Looking at the army numbers, Beastyqt only has 13 men-at-arms, 7 Landsknechte and 4 culverins, whereas on the other side you're now seeing 35 Landsknechte. This is a risky play to a certain extent by VortiX, because that many light infantry like the Landsknechte could be wiped out easily by mangonels. But if Beastyqt doesn't have mangonels, that's the better unit composition. The castle on the right side from VortiX is getting taken out. The culverins were not targeting the bombard of Beastyqt, so bombard now takes down the castle, and it looks like we'll have the infantry once again trying to charge into the base of VortiX. Beastyqt knows very well that the moment he is striking on the southern part of the map, he can divert VortiX's attention that way. And VortiX will have to react to that, and he can use that as a window to push the middle. That's exactly what he's doing. Villagers trying to repair the walls as much as possible. Bombard is setting up. Looks like once again you're going to see Beastyqt being unable to break in, but he's just using this window. You can see at the top of the screen, he's using this window to get those stone walls up. It's all about that. It's all about diverting the enemy forces here, and then getting up the stone walls here. Looks like there are some lumberjacks in the north here for VortiX that could be found by Beastyqt, and that would be a great find. And now he's walling in his opponent. He's realizing that his opponent could start running low on resources on that hill, so he could limit his movement, pin him inside his base, and then make it very difficult for him to access resources, especially wood could be a big concern very soon, which would be quite important for siege weapons, of course. The walls will be burned down eventually by those men-at-arms. For now, VortiX is rallying his forces in the middle, but on the south, Beastyqt is going to guarantee that his opponent cannot break out. On the north, you do have some Landsknechte counter-attacking, but for the first time for a long time, we're going to see VortiX pushing the middle. He has to be careful because the castle has boiling oil, I do believe, which means that the Landsknechte could be wiped out very easily underneath it. You see the Landsknechte getting absolutely shredded by the boiling oil. Just like Landsknechte doing area damage, the boiling oil also does area damage here. And on low HP units like the Landsknechte, it can do a tremendous amount of damage. This is the problem here for VortiX. Those units are not suitable for fighting underneath castles, and Beastyqt knows that. Beastyqt knows very well that he just needs some anti-siege to take down the opponent's bombards. He's setting up 7 culverins, fires a volley into the mangonel. Culverin here from VortiX firing back, but the bombard gets taken down as well, and suddenly VortiX is going to tap out. He's realizing that he's being walled in, he can't push the middle, and with that, Beastyqt, despite being down 1 relic, whoopsie, that was an interesting scene out there. So Beastyqt, despite being down 1 relic, he's going to take game number 1. And this is the thing I was referring to. This is scary to a certain extent. And this is impressive to a certain extent. Because Beastyqt is not doing anything special. He's the most meta-focused player of all. Really, he's the type of person that is just going to play what you see on the ladder every single day. But he's executing it so well that his opponents really have a tough time reacting to this one. And with that, Beastyqt takes game number 1, he takes the HRE mirror, and we'll be jumping into game number 2, which will be on the home map of VortiX. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Beastyqt versus VortiX. We're jumping into game number 2 on the home map of VortiX. Spawning in on the northern side of the map, we'll have VortiX playing as the French in blue, and down south we will have Beastyqt playing as the English. VortiX is opening with 2 scouts here, which is somewhat unconventional against the English, but not completely unprecedented. Of course, once again, this comes down to the sheep wars. Now, when a French player is opening with 2 scouts, it's somewhat less likely that they go for professional scouts, simply because they are focusing early on collecting sheep, which is a sign that they don't really want to focus on bringing in hunt, at least not early on. Meanwhile, on the other side, Beastyqt is only operating with 1 scout. He has been moderately successful collecting sheep though. He's going to have 5 sheep following that scout right at the beginning, despite not scouting the majority of the map, so that's a great start for him. We're playing Arabia here, as we have 3 forward wood lines for our red player, our English player. That's going to be somewhat concerning, but what's probably even more concerning for the French player is that the wood lines that they have is just very exposed. All of them are on one side, but the real thing here is that two of these wood lines are so much on the front that you would even, to a certain extent, classify them as neutral wood lines, not even something that directly belongs to one player. So if you look at Beast's base, all three of the wood lines sort of surround his base, so you can justify saying that these wood lines belong to him. But what about the other three? Especially this one, this is at the middle of the map. I would hardly say that this belongs to VortiX. And given the fact that the English love to go for the longbow plus tower plus, that's going to be a very dangerous combination. Longbows, towers, aggression early on, and potentially denying the wood line. That's always a dangerous thing for the French to face, especially if you are seeing some early spearmen being added as well, which is pretty much guaranteed by the English here. And that could be very alarming for a French player. Of course, you could say wood is not so important for French at the beginning, but that's not really true, especially if the English can limit their map control, and especially if the French aren't able to access their berries or hunts, because in that case, they'll have to start adding some farming eco quite early on. Looking at the other key resources, 2 gold mines are on the right side for a French player, the third one on the left side. That's nice distribution because you do have backups on the right side while your primary gold is on the left. Hunts are on both on the left side though, and the berries are also on the left. So quite a significant portion of the key resources for our blue player VortiX can be found to the left of his base. So if aggression comes from that direction by Beasty, this could be very concerning for VortiX because he could be cut off from a lot of resources. School of Cavalry on the way for VortiX, whereas on the other side, the Council Hall is being built by Beasty. You could see for a brief moment that VortiX is going up with a mill, but once again, I would be very surprised to see him going for professional scouts here. He's got a lot of sheep to work with, and indeed, that's wheelbarrow that he's researching, I do believe, because he's definitely researching something. I'm suspecting it's wheelbarrow, and indeed, it now shows up on the overlay. You can see that golden glow circle around this upgrade. VortiX is going for early wheelbarrow, whereas on the other side, no signs of eco upgrades just yet for Beasty. Instead, he's going for a preemptive barracks, which is standard against the French. You know cavalry is coming, so you need to be prepared for that. You need to start adding spearmen of your own. So far, neither of the players have a spectacular amount of sheep to work with, which means both of them will have to venture out towards the berries, towards the hunts. This could open up possibilities for a French player, of course, because being able to raid with the French cavalry could be a nice advantage over the English. And in this matchup in particular, you want the English to be the aggressor all the time. The moment the English player becomes the defender, this is going to be very difficult, because the French player will be able to just raid left and right using the mobility advantage. It's a high mobility civilization versus a low mobility civilization, and Beastie knows that, so he's gonna have to be aggressive with this push. He needs to be the aggressor. On the other side, VortiX is dropping archer range early, so he's gonna have a response to those spears coming out, and we are also going to have horsemen being made by him. You could see for a brief moment that he's not queuing up knights, he's queuing up horsemen. First horseman is now out, it's trying to intercept some longbows coming forward. The first couple of longbows did not have a spearman escort, so part of the reason why VortiX is so active using those horsemen right now is because he's trying to find one or two longbows that are not being guarded by spearmen right now. Looks like Beastie grouped up his forces, so he's not going to send out one longbowman by itself, and there is the villager coming forward. You know it's coming. It has to come, especially against the French. As I said, Beastie needs to be the aggressor, and the best way to continuously be the aggressor is by dropping a forward tower, because that gives you a very nice forward position to hold, makes it much more difficult for your opponent to push you back, and it also is a great staging ground. The other thing that you could gain here is that if you have a lot of towers, it's going to be much more difficult for your opponent to jump on your army with the cavalry. Even if you lose your spearmen, if you have 3-4 forward towers, you can jump into those with your longbows and minimize your casualties. We have seen something like that before, where the player on the attacking side simply has so many towers that the cavalry isn't able to engage the archers because the archers will all jump into towers. Preemptive palings being deployed over here by Beastie. This is the first time I'm seeing him doing this. But yesterday we have seen Mista doing this against the French, I do believe, and I do believe that Beastyqt probably just saw those games and said, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and he just took that from Mista, because there was no player that used these preemptive palings before in this tournament, other than Mista. It looks like there's going to be VortiX losing one horseman, and there's two more villagers coming out. Look at that, Vo's coming up, that's a clever idea. That's a very clever idea for Beastyqt, and in the previous game I said that he's not playing that much off-meta. This is a slight off-meta over here, of course, with the English, because you rarely see the players voting in the opponent. The idea here is very simple. If I put a tower and longbows behind that wood line, you're going to struggle mightily when it comes to cleaning it up because you can't even access it. So those Vos are basically there to protect those towers, make it much more difficult for the opponent to push them. Longbows are now moving up. As you see, one of the wood lines have been pushed away, and this is what I was referring to. When all three of your wood lines are up front like this, especially these two pretty much being on neutral ground, it's going to be very difficult to just find yourself a place to chop trees at. Now, VortiX relocated his lumberjacks to the north, and that wood line is going to be functional for the time being. Meanwhile, one horseman comes in trying to harass the gold miners. It does get a villager pick, but it also got heavily damaged by the spearmen, so right now, Beasty has 2 villagers deficit. Of course, French also training villagers faster is going to help a lot. And we're seeing arrow slits come in for him. Beasty's slowly mining stone, so he's going to start dropping arrow slits. And it looks like he's crawling up even more with that tower. He has to be careful because the villagers are mispositioned. Longbows are nowhere to be found. And it looks like he's falling back for the time being, as his opponent VortiX is launching a counterattack. Archer's now moving up once again. Bit of a miss micro there by Beastyqt. He's going to lose one villager, losing the second one as well. That's a huge miss micro by Beastyqt. What happened there? I have no idea. But he did not see those archers, and by the time he spotted them, he lost the 2 villagers. That's a huge loss, because this slows down his push quite a bit. And I was just about to say that VortiX is launching a counterattack with horsemen. That's not going to be very threatening, because Beastyqt can have 1 or 2 spearmen back at home to hold that. But the moment you give a big window for VortiX to counterattack, if VortiX has a couple of archers to spare, that could be devastating, because that you cannot hold off with just 1 or 2 spears. Another villager being pulled forward as the horsemen now come in on those lumberjacks. Quite significant rate here, actually. There's going to be 1 villager being taken down, a second one is gonna get taken down. All the horsemen survive but 1. That's a great raid once again by VortiX. He's now possessing a 7 villagers lead. Ultimately had the second horseman heavily damaged out there, but he still has 3 to work with. So that is something that he can utilize to put some more pressure on the opponent's eco. Longbow's pushing up, but the archer numbers are much better over here for VortiX, and he sees the blood in the water. He's realizing that he's got the critical mass here. His opponent's got spears, but those are completely useless against the archers, and the archer numbers are just favoring VortiX so much over here. He's pursuing with the archers. Tower, now with arrow slits, longbows retreating to its vicinity, as the spearmen are all getting picked apart by the archers. VortiX isn't going to overextend, but he's going to pick off so many longbows, he's going to pick off most of those spearmen as well, and I think we had some villagers being killed underneath the town center as well. That seems to be 2 dead bodies, and Beast's villager count is disturbingly low. I think those horsemen just attacked the villagers under the town center, which seems suicidal, but if Beastyqt was focused on microing his archers, he may not even have noticed it until it was too late. Ultimately, he's down to 25 villagers over 37. This is looking very grim right now for Beastyqt. He lost a couple of villagers in the forward, he lost some villagers in the raid, and now, apparently, he lost quite a lot of villagers to those horsemen as well. He probably didn't see them coming in. The question is whether VortiX sent them in intentionally. It's possible he just said, okay, I'm going to dive underneath the town center, because I know my opponent isn't looking. But it's also possible he just accidentally sent them, well, not accidentally, but deliberately sending it to the opponent's base, and then the horsemen, they just do whatever they want when VortiX isn't looking at it, right? He just set them into the base of Beastyqt, and then the horsemen just did whatever they wanted, and that was killing villagers under the town center, because it feels a little ambitious to just dive under town centers to kill vills. Not a single villager was taken down from VortiX, by the way, so far, which is an impressive defense by him. He's going to be cut off from gold for the time being, but now he's launching the archer counterattack, and this is what I was referring to. Right now, Beastyqt can hold off a couple of horsemen with spearmen that he's using to defend. But the moment VortiX can spare some archers to counterattack, it suddenly becomes a completely different story, because first of all, the villagers will be picked off much easier by mass archers than just 4 or 5 horsemen. Second, it's going to be much more difficult for Beastyqt to defend, and you see, Beastyqt's got limited amount of mobility to work with. He can't just call off his longbows and go back home to clean this up. This could be a great counterattack, could be something that even finishes the game, because there is nowhere to go for Beasty. He's gonna have to abandon his entire wood line here, and you see that the archers are diving under the town center. They all get a couple of villager kills over here. One villager goes down, second, third villager goes down, all the farmers are being pulled back. Beastyqt can fit his entire eco in that town center simply because he's losing everything. There is nowhere to go for him pretty much. Jumps into the town center with whatever he has left, but that's only 22 villagers. And there is 2 more gold miners that will be picked apart. He basically has no functional economy now. And indeed, 1 more villager goes down on the gold, second villager goes down. And the losses for VortiX were pretty much minimal. He lost like, what, 4 horsemen, 4 archers? For the sake of killing 8 or so villagers from Beasty, that's totally worth it. Of course, VortiX still needs to clean up Beasty's push here. And Beasty is now launching a counterattack to those wood lines. I do assume that his idea is that if he can cut off the opponent from wood, there might still be a glimpse of hope. And now VortiX is gonna have to call off his forces, or at least that's what I would think, but VortiX is thinking differently. He's keeping his archers back at home, at least a small group of them. All the villagers are being pulled back to the town center. Things are getting a little shaky here for VortiX, because Beast is gonna have an opportunity to pick off a couple of villagers. He's focusing on the archers for the time being. Behind this one, Beasty is losing his entire eco though. He's down to 15 villagers, because the archers swooped in and went for the berry, or not even the berries, the farms. What I'm suspecting happened is that Beasty probably realized that his opponent has to call off the archers to try and fight his longbows. And he thought that the archers are coming back, he didn't expect them to be there on the farms. Now, of course, VortiX also has to clean up some towers. He's pulling like 40 plus villagers to clean those up, and he's going to lose a couple of villagers here as well, because VortiX doesn't have wood income, which makes it very difficult to make basically anything other than knights, but he doesn't have food either. VortiX is out of resources entirely. Behind this one, Beasty is down to 15 villagers, now losing some more, even deleting lumber camps, so he has an easier time escaping. 13 villagers for Beasty. VortiX has 43, so the moment VortiX gets some safe access to resources, he's going to win this game, but VortiX currently has no functional economy. 30 food per minute, and basically it was no food per minute until these villagers were pulled. They're dropping it off at the town center. I think that was a forced drop, because now the villagers are going back for what could potentially be food. If VortiX finds a way to clean this army up, he's going to win this game. That's not even a question. And now he sees the window to go for the berries. He just needs a bit of a food, and then he can fight this army off. Beasty basically has no functional economy. So it's all about cleaning up those towers. The siege engineering upgrade could be immensely helpful here for VortiX, but of course, affording that is a different story. Alternatively, you could utilize the fact that your opponent is English and he doesn't have mobility. Because if you can sneak some villagers out here to this hunt, especially getting rid of this tower would help a lot doing that. If you can sneak some villagers out to this area, your opponent will never find it. Beasty doesn't have a scout, Beasty doesn't have mobility with his army, so it would be very difficult for Beasty to find those sneaky resource deposits. And that's probably going to be the concept here. Up north, villagers are being pulled to take down the tower. That should secure the berries once again for VortiX. Realistically speaking, the chances of Beasty are almost non-existent. The only reason why he's pressing onto this one and not resigning is because he knows very well that his opponent is struggling to access resources as well. Looks like a couple of villagers here will be taken down by the tower. This is not something that VortiX has noticed yet, and that could be a nice way for Beasty to somehow even out the villager count. We have seen some crazy games in N4C, I'm not gonna lie, but this would be one of the craziest if Beasty somehow won this. Looks like the archers and the longbows will trade off against each other. This is not necessarily a great fight for VortiX, but he knows very well that the only thing that his opponent has left is just a few longbows, and if he cleans this up, there is basically no chance for Beasty to do any damage to his base. I really wonder if VortiX addressed the issue of that tower killing his villagers. It doesn't seem to be the case though. 37 villagers for VortiX, 36, and it's dropping. I may have spoken too soon. There might be a wild scenario where Beasty is able to recover because VortiX is still struggling mightily accessing resources. And Beasty, he doesn't have a large army left now, but he's using that to great effect. And VortiX is losing villagers left and right. In just a blink of an eye, you could see VortiX losing like 10 villagers. And Beasty behind this one has an untouched economy, as weird as it sounds like. These towers being up in the front, pinning VortiX inside his base, actually buy a lot of time for Beasty, who, by the way, has 13 less villagers, but he at least has no harm done to his economy right now. It's not being harassed, it's not being damaged, And we could be in for a game where both players are at like 25 to 30 villagers at minute 16. VortiX now is able to get some resources for himself, though. He's able to access the berries, was able to access the forests, so he's gonna have enough resources to clean this army up with the archers. Beast is still in an unbelievably difficult position, but there might be a glimpse of hope left for him, actually, especially given the fact that he's got the English farming, which is a great source of food, whereas his opponent is, of course, just depleting those berries. Once again, villagers being harassed by the spears here, another tower being crawled up with. Where is the archers at? Where are VortiX's archers? He's pulling them back right away. Tower will be pushed once again. I think that's a fortification upgrade coming in for Beasty. If he gets the fortification upgrade, this could be big. And if the tower can focus down the archers, the spearmen could finish off so many vills. Looks like the archers are taking down the spears before they could do anything, though. And with that, it looks like the villagers will have to be called back. Spearmen still in the battlefield, though. Villager is going to get picked off. That's a big move, because this way there is no more towers coming up for Beasty, or at least not for a time being. Archer still working to great efficiency, picking off those spears. But VortiX is running desperately low on wood. Such a chaotic and messy game here. If VortiX ever is able to address the access to resources issue, he's going to be perfectly fine. I honestly think that what Beasty needs is 1 or 2 horsemen. Because VortiX doesn't have a single horseman right now. VortiX's army is exclusively archers. If Beasty can somehow make 2 or 3 horsemen, he could wipe that army out very easily, and suddenly he could start harassing his opponent quite a bit. And access to wood is still a luxury right now for VortiX. He has a ton of gold, so if he gets a market up, which he's doing right now, he can start buying resources. But still, such a chaotic game right now. Still 15 villagers lead for VortiX. Slowly but surely he's taking over, but he's got no food income. His food income isn't necessarily spectacular. He's basically mining gold so that he can buy resources. But as you see, the longbows are now pushing the gold mine. Once again, it seems like we're going to have a sneaky lumber camp on the right side. That's going to be key for VortiX. Being able to get any kind of resource income here in this game is probably something that pushes him closer and closer to victory. Beasty's not giving up on this, though. And he's getting up the English farming eco, which is going to be a very consistent source of food. And it's going to help cut into that villager deficit, because, of course, his villager count is lower, but those English farmers are worth a lot more villagers than, let's say, the berry villagers of VortiX. And if those longbows ever find that lumber camp, that could be huge. VortiX probably knows that his opponent has to chop wood somewhere. He's looking for it, and he's got a new scout. That's a beautiful move. I really love him adding a new scout here, because he needs to find vision. His army isn't going to be able to find enemies. He needs to get some tools out, a scout, for example, to find enemies with. And if he finds that lumber camp, that would be spectacular. That could easily be 10 villager kills, and it would push Beasty back into this game. I don't even have to mention the fact that if Beasty somehow wins this game, that's going to shatter the morale of VortiX. He's down 1 game. He technically is supposed to win a game here. He's ahead by 20 villagers. His opponent lost so much when the counterattack happened, yet Beasty's staying in this game. And what I love about this play here for Beasty is that he's not playing greedy. He's saying, okay, he spotted me, he's coming in with the archers, and now it's double stables. And as I said, VortiX doesn't really have the tools to stop the archers or the horsemen right now. In fact, what you want to do here for Beasty is bait those archers out as much as possible, even if it comes with the sacrifice of your longbows. Because you want to fight these archers on open field as far away from VortiX's base as humanly possible. You fight them in open field, you will get a kill. If you let them go back to VortiX's base, they might find shelter in a tower or something like that. So you see, Beasty is pulling them all the way to the corner. That's the right thing to do. And VortiX is pursuing because he believes that Beasty is, like, the only thing that keeps Beasty in this game is that group of archers. And that's a very good mind game here by Beasty. VortiX right now believes that the only reason why Beasty is not resigning is because he still has some longbows to fight with. But reality is that the only reason Beasty is pulling those archers to the corner is because this way he can get a beautiful surround. Now there is no defense upgrade on Beasty's forces, and there is the attack upgrade for VortiX's archers, but that's still quite a lot of horsemen, and now VortiX is probably like, oh shoot, I'm in trouble. Because suddenly the horsemen arrive on the battlefield, triple stable is working for Beasty, he's still behind by 17 villagers, but he's about to clean up all these archers. You see, Scout is also joining the party over here to absorb some arrow fire. Some more horsemen are coming in, and suddenly, not only does Beasty have this superior unit composition here because he's playing horsemen against archers, he's also going to have one extra element, mobility. The ability to raid the opponent is now in his hands and not in the hands of VortiX, who's playing the French civilization. Here come the first couple of horsemen, and you're seeing Beasty use that mobility component so well. Many of those villagers are damaged already thanks to the fact that they were fighting towers, and now they're being pulled to the right side. As crazy as it sounds like, I get the feel that we're getting closer and closer to Beasty potentially turning this around. VortiX's reaction will be making a couple of knights. He's got the goal to do that, and you could see for a brief moment that VortiX is also chopping the wood line inside his base. That's a little risky, of course, because there is a fortified tower on it. And with a fortified tower, he starts losing villagers very soon to it. So you're going to see that happen in a matter of seconds. Barracks now being placed by VortiX. That's a good reaction, no problem with that. The concern for him right now, as there is going to be a battering ram coming in potentially to take down the towers. Battering ram cancelled as the horsemen jump on the archers. Archers now in a difficult position because the horsemen do have the armor as well. And it looks like villagers are also being pulled to fight off the horsemen. There's only one knight to fight this, but Beasty is just going to ignore it. He knows very well that he just needs to wipe out as many archers as he can as he's bringing in wave after wave of horsemen, switching focus from the archers to the villagers. He's going to try and yoink that one scout, will fail to do that. A couple of horsemen actually made it through to the north. So now, it's all about that harassment being done by Beasty. And if you look at the food income per minute, despite the fact that Beasty's villager count is much lower, the food income per minute is going to be better because he's got the English farming eco. Absolutely ludicrous game. This is a game where Beasty is borderline leading, I believe, because keep in mind that VortiX was mining gold like there is no tomorrow, because that was the only resource he could access, which means that he's running low on gold inside his base, and that could soon turn into even worse things. Battering ram now being built. Horsemen should have a window to potentially jump on that ram, but I think this is the one where Beasty's gonna have to start thinking about just going for full raids. He's also adding some spears himself, which is a great idea once your opponent is only playing with spears and cavalry. Beasty is back on track. He's behind by 17 villagers, but given how inefficient the economy of VortiX is, you see he's chopping down stealth forests here for wood. I would say that this is still an acceptable position to be in for Beasty. And you see, right now, the eco of VortiX is wide open for raiding. It's very exposed, as his opponent is now grabbing the melee attack upgrade. Here comes the first battering ram. There's quite a lot of spearmen escorting it, as it looks like Beasty is spotting those knights. He's trying to jump on the knights with the horsemen, potentially. He was hiding them in the stealth forest. Spearmen braced against the impact, and this way the knights couldn't engage. And now here comes the cavalry, and that's a grave mistake for VortiX, leaving that ram alone. He wasn't expecting the horsemen to be there, and that could be a battering ram being taken down. Huge mistake there. The ram cannot escape, and that's going to be one battering ram taken down. He was trying to make a second battering ram, but by the time he finished it, his army was mispositioned, and he just loses one battering ram like that. Now he's charging with the spears. He's gonna have to be careful not to lose those spears to the tower fire. Cleaning up that second ram is gonna be much more difficult for Beasty, but once again, he's slowing down the opponent, and it's all about that. Slowing down the opponent, and I think that tower has 5 horsemen garrisoned. Once again, the ram is being left alone here for the time being, and this will be once again the window that Beasty wants to use. He's coming in with the horsemen. I'm really curious what's exactly in that tower, as we got some spearmen joining the fun from both sides. Longbows once again making it to the battlefield. The tower almost set on fire. One more hit from the ram to take it down. Tower is now on fire, I believe. For now, it looks like Beasty is getting forced back here by the superior numbers of the opponent. Spearmen, archers, and a couple of knights here. On the right side, however, you got some horsemen moving in. And one of the things that you do not have here for VortiX is mobility. And indeed, the tower had 5 horsemen in it. And now they could jump on the archers. This is a great opportunity to jump on the archers, or even better, jump on the villagers. Spears are nearby, but of course, now it's all about that mobility component for Beasty. He just wants to raid and raid and raid, because he knows that his opponent is struggling to catch up. VortiX's eco balance is terrible. He's got 2,000 gold in the bank. Not a lot of food to work with, of course. He has a market, but of course, he's just too busy to balance out his eco right now. Beasty is back to 46 villagers. The more I look at this game, the more I'm feeling that Beasty is making a comeback here, because basically, VortiX did not make any tangible gain in terms of map control. He wasn't able to move forward in this game by any means. Towers are now finally cleaned up, so for the last 15 minutes, VortiX was pinned inside his own base by those towers. Finally, the pressure is relieved from his wood lines, and that could help a lot for him steer this back under control. But at worst, Beasty was able to at least balance out the game. And in a game where he seemed to have completely lost control, he's now at least back on track. Villager count is still in the favor of VortiX. Now we're seeing VortiX going into Castle Age though, and that could be threatening for Beasty. Looks like VortiX might be able to weather the storm, actually. Now, one thing that you have to respect, though, is that he just spent tons of resources going into castle, which means that he didn't spend a lot of resources making army in the last 1 or 2 minutes. And this could be a window that Beasty uses. And of course, men-at-arms could be a consideration here for VortiX as a response to the archer-horseman composition, but men-at-arms don't have a lot of mobility. And if Beasty sees that his opponent is going Castle Age, he just needs to press on to this one, double down on Feudal Age, and keep raiding with Horsemen, as he's doing right now. He's getting a couple of villager kills on the northern side, and in the middle now, he once again has a tower that's probably being fortified and arrow-slitted as we speak. Beasty's not giving up on this. He's picking off some villagers, and Castle Age is coming in for Beasty. That's the King's Palace, and the moment the King's Palace goes up, he's going to have a second town center, which means that he can cut into that villager deficit that's only right now numbering 7. 7 villagers deficit in a game where Beasty was behind by 20. And if the tower goes up there, once again, the access to wood for VortiX will be cut off. He does not see the tower until the last moment, and that's going to be a disaster. I feel like this is spiraling out of control for VortiX, because everything that's going forward is starting to favor Beasty. Really, for the last 15-20 minutes, barely anything went in the favor of VortiX. He was able to launch one good counterattack, and it seemed like a game won. But now, Beasty's got the English farming eco, that's a juggernaut food economy, he's up to Castle Age, only down 4 villagers, and suddenly, you're looking at a player with forward in front of your base, you're looking at a player, Beasty, with a great food eco thanks to the fact that he's playing English, and last but not least, you're looking at a player with 2 town centers. So Beasty can actually take over in villager count. I think when Beasty lost like 15-20 villagers, I said he's got a less than 1% chance winning it. Well, you're just now seeing that less than 1% over here. Of course, VortiX doesn't want to give up on this by any means because he had such a huge lead, but we're looking at an even game now. This is all even Steven. Once again, you have the push coming in on those towers. The towers are not fortified yet, but as that's happening, you do have a bit of a distraction here for VortiX, as his villagers on the farms are getting pushed. There were some spears to fight them, so once again, Beasty is gonna get pushed back, and it looks like the spearmen will be able to deal with most of those horsemen. But Beasty, I think this is the best thing that he could hope for. Now, he's still in a tough spot because there is archers and knights coming towards his base, and there is some battering rams as well. But for a player that was down 25 villagers in mid-game, this is still a great position to be in, and some knights would do the trick here, because his opponent doesn't have a ton of spears. There is knights, of course, from the French player, which are better than the English knights, but just a couple of knights would be able to wipe out most of the archers, and then they would take a reasonable engagement against those blue knights out here. Beasty is walling up. He knows that this could be a long game. He's turtling up for winter, because here we go. The knights are coming in. The veteran longbows are in, so are veteran archers. Some spears join the fun as well for VortiX. As he's pushing underneath that town center, losses are quite massive here for Beasty. He's losing villagers left and right, but he finds a nice choke point for his longbows, and his first knights are now making it to the battlefield. That's going to help immensely taking down those archers. There is still no direct answer to those knights, however, and the battering rams are closing in. Will Beasty lose it in this battle? That would be absolutely ludicrous. VortiX has a lot of momentum over here. Beasty is down to just 9 army. Holy potatoes, and the rams are going towards the houses and the production buildings. VortiX could actually win this one in just a blink of an eye. Now, once the spearmen are gone, just a couple of knights here would be immensely helpful for Beasty. He's once again down 20 villagers. He lost so much eco. His food eco is now idle. He might need to pull villagers to take down the battering rams, but he simply doesn't have the forces to fight the knights here. And it seems like VortiX is able to steer this back under control. What an absolute roller coaster of a game here. Because as you see, now the villagers are fighting here for Beasty. He's down to 39. He still has 2 town centers, of course, but he simply has no resources to replenish his forces. And now VortiX feels the blood in the water. He's got his resource income back on track, so he's just sending in wave after wave of knights. And Beasty taps out. Beasty taps out, and with that, VortiX wins a critical game over here in game number 2. A game that seemed to be won, then suddenly it seemed to be lost. And then he's just able to use that final momentum to finish off Beasty. I think if Beasty was given 2 more minutes here in Castle Age safely, he probably would have been able to win this game, because everything was going in the favor of Beasty. VortiX had to fight for every single inch of this map, and boy oh boy did Beasty put up a fight. But ultimately, VortiX is able to take this win here. Huge victory, because this really seemed grim for some time. Especially given the fact that Beasty was down 20 villagers and he almost made a comeback. VortiX closes out the game that he had to close out, and with that we have an even scoreline going into game number 3. Welcome back to game number 3 between VortiX and Beastyqt. We're going to Mongolian Heights. Spawning on the left side is going to be VortiX. This time around, he's the English player in blue. And on the right side, we're going to have Rus for Beastyqt in red. This is a map where we have seen Rus prevail in numerous cases. It's a civilization that has a good fishing eco. They have the capabilities of contesting and winning the water fights. But the big thing is that if the game goes very long, their unit composition is going to be spectacular. Long-range Springolds, Streltsy, Horse Archers, quite effective Knights, so many things to love about the Rus here on this map. Meanwhile, for the English, it's an appealing civilization pick because one of the civilizations that could easily contest the river and push away the opponent from the water would be the English with the longbows. So curious to see how that's going to unfold. Looks like up north, Beasty is on a mission and he is going to collect so many sheep here. He's also aggroing 2 wolves. That's the definition of a great start here for Beasty. He already has a dock up dropping the first fishing ship, I think. And he's operating with 2 scouts only. Of course, when you drop a dock early like this with the Rus, you're pretty much giving up on a hunting cabin, which means that you will only operate with what will probably be 2 scouts. You can add 1 more from the town center, so you can go free. But no matter what you do, you can only add the scouts from the town center if you go for the dock early and skip the hunting cabin. Looks like Beasty's at 45 bounty right now, but he's being trailed by dozens of sheep. He's taking down his own hunt right now, bit of a scout dancing on the right side. That seems like we're going to have the final deer being picked off by VortiX, so he's going to deny some of the hunt here from the opponent. For now, of course, Beasty's focusing on bringing back those wolves. His bounty collection wasn't spectacular at the beginning, but he's going to be compensated by the fact that he's got so much sheep to work with. That's like 15 or so, and each of those are also worth... Yeah, it's actually more than that. It's around 18 underneath his town center. So that's a solid... How much is that? It's like 90 or so bounty. Quite a decent amount to work with in the long run from sheep. Looks like he's up to 120, and there is also 1 more wolf trailing him. There's a patch of huntables that he did not finish off on the north yet. So Beasty will likely get to level 2 bounty, especially if he kills some of the sheep underneath the town center. He didn't have a spectacular start bounty-wise, but he's going to have a lot of sheep to work with. Of course, sheep is not a priority right now because his food eco will mostly be centered around fishing. But if you think about it, especially if the English push away the fishing boats from the river, you could easily find yourself in a position where you will need some food income from the land. And in that scenario, having that much sheep underneath your town center is going to be great. The other thing, and that's the more important thing, is that VortiX doesn't have a lot of sheep to work with. So by picking up the sheep yourself, VortiX has a very low amount of sheep left to work with, which means that he himself is going to have to start adding farms quite early or go for the hunt. English won't be very disappointed if they have to add farms early, of course, but it's still going to be a big investment for them to start with. Looks like there are 3 more wolves, so Beasty, he's at 210 bounty right now. He's going to easily get that up to 285, and he could easily get to probably even 300 if he finds some kills on that deer patch. As you see, now we're seeing a split POV between the two. We'll see the scout dancing happening out there. And you see that the both players will try to get some hits on those deer. You always have to land the second hit. That's the rule of this one. And that's exactly what Beasty is doing, as you could see on the right side for a brief moment. The moment VortiX shoots the deer, he's going to get the second shot in. Looks like Beasty was able to get 1 deer kill out there. So that's an extra 10 for him. And he's getting ready for Feudal Age. It's a rather slow Feudal Age, as you see. But of course, when you add some fishing eco, your Feudal Age is going to be slower than the opponent. And is that the Kremlin that he's thinking about? For a brief moment, I thought he was gonna drop the Kremlin in the middle, which would be reminiscent of the Barbican drop strategies of the Chinese on this map. Chinese players sometimes do Barbican of the Sun drop in the middle, on the river, to prevent the opponent from crossing, and for a brief moment, I thought he was gonna drop the Kremlin because he had his cursor on the Kremlin. So that could have been an appealing thought, but ultimately, the Golden Gate is the better landmark, and that is exactly what he's going for. Looks like he's trying to pick off the wolf from the back of that scout. And is he gonna get it? Nope. VortiX was able to take it down. Villager coming forward, so you're going to see the forward on the way. Colors might be a little deceiving here because you have to keep in mind that the player POVs, the players see themselves as blue for both players, and the walls are coming up. Right now, VortiX is blocking the wall foundations, though. There's another scout coming in, and I don't think that Beast is gonna be able to get the walls up, or is he? He's getting up 1 more foundation, but the villager is sneaking past, and you can see that VortiX is trying to just wall off this crossing, prevent the opponent from doing those walls himself. Looks like on the north, there is also going to be a walling attempt from VortiX, but the key thing is happening on the south. This crossing won't be walled off entirely by Beasty. He's going to lose the scout, he's going to lose the villager sent to build the walls, and with that, there's an opening for VortiX to cross. The question is whether or not he's going to cross it, because so far he's calling off his longbows, and you gotta wonder if he will just harass those fishing ships and try to sort of play a semi-fast castle approach over here. Stable has been added by Beasty. He will probably add 1 or 2 knights here to deal with those longbows. There's also going to be a Loggia attack ship coming in, but the attack ships are outranged by the longbows. So the attack ship can only shoot those longbows if the archers get close to the river. That could still happen because they want to push those fishing boats, but as you see, the Loggia attack ship is coming back trying to focus down the longbows. It's going to be a dance of ships and archers, but when the first knight arrives from Beasty, this is going to be a completely different story. Tower is being placed as we speak by VortiX, so he's trying to press onto that fishing eco. But keep in mind that Rus don't have to drop off fish, so they can just relocate it until eternity, pretty much. So, unless VortiX denies the entire river, his opponent is always going to have access to food from the water. We had one knight queued up for Beasty, but it hasn't reached the battlefield just yet. It's coming in right now. This one knight could even pick off the villager here, potentially, and that's exactly what Beasty is thinking about. Charging on the villager. Looks like he wasn't able to get the charge in. Palings are being deployed by the longbows. Villager making a run for this one. First longbow gets taken down, second longbowman could soon follow, but the villager is still alive, and those palings make it very difficult for the knight to take this down. Villager dancing around, and he gets away with that. That's a huge micro there by VortiX, getting away with that villager, finishing the tower. The palings helped a lot, and then just the longbow fire finished off the knight slowly. Tower goes up, and that's going to make this position much stronger for VortiX. He's gonna have the longbows. I wonder if he's going to try getting the siege upgrade to try and blast his way through those walls. Because one of the problems that I'm having here for VortiX is that, well, his aggression to a certain extent is threatening the opponent. As you see, Beasty has an untouched fishing eco on the north. And that's the power of the Rus here. You can hide your fishing eco. It's difficult for the opponent to track it down because you don't need to drop off the fish. And VortiX cannot chase endlessly. That's the problem that he's facing. He can pursue, but ultimately his opponent is going to find a place to fish at, and by the time you deny the entire river, your opponent will be in Castle Age. Longbows now pursuing the fishing ships to the north. We're going to have a combat ship being sent there to try and deal with that. Knight is going to encounter the scouts, get some nice hits going, but ultimately isn't able to finish them off. Looks like the Loggia attack ship is able to get one kill on those longbows. Second longbowman could be taken down here quite swiftly. Indeed, there could be a third one even taken down. That's a nice fight for that combat ship, and now the fishing ships will be pulled back. As I said, the problem that VortiX is facing right now is that his opponent is piling up resources for Castle Age. Of course, the English farming eco will kick in at some point, and those fishing ships also have to relocate, but it's still 7 eco lead for Beasty, and let's not forget, he can turn the food that he gets from the river into gold using the Golden Gate. So, you get the feel that despite the fact that VortiX is able to do some damage to the opponent's fishing eco here, ultimately, Beasty is able to get away with quite a lot of fishing, and that's going to make his eco much better compared to his opponent's one. If you look at the resource incomes per minute, food income per minute is slightly better for Beasty, but way better food income, and he also has some gold income coming in, so he's going to have a way better overall economy, thanks to the fact that his fishing eco is still working here. Another attempt at a tower coming in. That's going to once again push those fishing ships closer and closer towards that corner, but there is still a lot of room to fall back to, and Beasty just needs to buy himself time, pretty much. He's adding some more knights, so he's trying to build up a critical mass of knights, I do believe, and that could be a great way to fight this one as well. If he gets like 6, 7, 8 knights, he could easily fight this, and then he can use that to raid the opponent. Looks like the tower is given up on, and with that, Beasty's fishing eco once again will be safe. I think VortiX gave up on that fishing eco because he's realizing that the opponent is sailing north once again, but I love that Beast is splitting his fishing eco, so even though half of the fishing eco is sailing north, fleeing from the longbows, the other half is still operational on the right side, so it's not like his entire fishing eco is idle at this point. One knight coming over, and that could find some villagers on the gold mine. There are some spearmen being added as we speak. You could see them marching forward, but it looks like that knight was successful when it comes to charging in on the gold mine. We're not seeing the villagers actually getting slain, But I do believe VortiX lost at least one villager, if not more than that. What's more important is that while the tower goes up, another villager gets picked off by the Logia attack ships. Part of the reason why he may have given up on that tower attempt was that the ship was able to reach the villagers. Looks like the knight has been dealt with using the spearman, and not a single villager was killed. I didn't see any blue corpses, so looks like VortiX gets away with that counterattack. And now, Beast is going for a full Feudal Age pressure here. He's going for archers and knights. I'm not exactly sure if I like this. This is a risky call, because he could make it to Castle Age and then use Castle Age units. Talk about Castle Age veteran knights, talk about Castle Age men-at-arms to deal with the forces of VortiX. Now, he's on a bit of a timer. Because if the English longbow plus spearman mass grows big, it's still going to be very difficult to deal with using Feudal Age army. If you got to Castle Age, you could have access to mangonels, for example. That would make life a lot easier for Beasty. So he's giving up on that Castle Age, at least for the time being, for the sake of building up an army in Feudal. Not exactly a fan of that, but it might work. I think the key thing would be to cross the river on the northern crossing. Because that is not something that the opponent has vision on, and if you do that, you can hit the opponent's base directly. That's the big thing here. Now, a couple of longbows might be tempted to just cross the river and start hitting the eco of Beastie, something that they haven't done so far. And indeed, the knights are apparently heading to the north. Archers are still staying back home, so I guess they're a response to a counterattack, and then the knights are just trying to burn their way through. This is, of course, something that the VortiX will eventually notice, because he sees the walls being burnt down, but his army slow-moving, it's going to take a lot of time for him to get there and react. And for Beastie, he needs one or two combat ships on the river to slow down a crossing like this. Because it's getting obvious that VortiX is trying to cross the river here with the longbows. So you have to slow this down as much as possible. Now, I'm not exactly sure if VortiX actually noticed the walls being burned down on the north, because so far there was not a single bit of a reaction to it. Eco still in the favor of Beastie, and he has been capitalizing on that for so long. Knights will burn through the walls, and there is enough archers here to hold off the longbows, I do believe. It's not going to be a great fight for Beastie, but it's going to be a good enough fight, so to say. And now Beastie's piling up a lot of food for potentially Castle Age. Knights are coming over, and they just need one good raid. You probably have to couple that by taking a fight here. Beastie knows about the battering ram coming in, and he is ready to fight this one. I didn't see a forward tower coming in. First volley comes out from the longbows, takes down one villager. There's a defensive tower here for Beastie to hold the left side, so the right side becomes the question. But I think the right side is actually completely logged, because you have two forests out here. This might be completely logged, and that would make it impossible for Beastie to push from that side. And with that, there is only one angle for VortiX to attack. Here comes Beastie with the knights, and this time around, there is not a single spearman to protect those gold miners. Reactions are swift from VortiX. He's going back to the town center. Spearmen are back at home, but this is the time where you might even commit against those villagers using the knights. So many villagers on the berries, spearmen scrambling to catch up. Battering ram is poking away at that tower, and as you see, those knights, they will just split up and start harassing the English player here as much as possible. Some lumberjacks were taken down from Beastie as well. Eco still in his favor, though. And you gotta wonder if a couple of archers will be dispatched as well by Beastie here. If Beastie had like 5 archers supporting those knights, this push would be a lot more dangerous because they could just pick off the spears. This being said, those knights are still a dangerous threat to VortiX's eco, but it seems like Beastie has slowed down a tiny bit over here. He's probably hoping to take a critical, decisive fight here, and he made a second town center. So he's realizing that he's not getting up to Castle Age, and if this turns out to be a long feudal war, he wants to have a second TC. You can see that he's got a second town center at the back. He loses the tower, he's in the risk of losing the archer ranges now though, so you gotta wonder when exactly he's going to fight this. This is where that Castle Age advantage could have been useful, just getting an opportunity to go for mangonels. Now, he seems to have the critical mass of archers, and he's got good upgrades. He's got the attack upgrade, he's got the defense upgrade. Villagers are also being pulled to burn down the battering rams, and here comes the counterattack. VortiX is gonna have to pull the rams. Knights are out there to soak up the arrow fire. Spearmen join the party as well, but now the Knights find an angle to hit those longbows. Behind this one, Knights also counterattack base of VortiX, but ultimately, the archer numbers and knight numbers, especially with the spearmen disappearing, will be able to overrun VortiX's forces. And now the archers, having higher movement speed than the longbows, can come in for the pursuit, and you might even see some combat ships trying to cut off the escape path. This is a big battle for VortiX and a big victory. He was patient, he waited long enough for him to pile up the archers and knights he needed, and he now takes a decisive win over the opponent. And given the fact that he's on 2 town centers, this puts VortiX into a very difficult position, because of course from now on, he's going to be fighting from a massively disadvantageous position. Beastyqt did lose one archer range in that battle, so it wasn't perfect, but as I said, it was all about the patience. He waited and waited and waited. He knew very well that he needs to take one decisive fight. He can't just damage the opponent's army. He needs to wait long enough for him to have an army that's capable of pushing that entire army back and ideally annihilating it as well. Looks like once again knights will be sent around. I would love to see some archers accompanying them, especially given the fact that those walls are still open, so this might even go unnoticed by VortiX, although there is some blue dots on the north. Looks like we do have a rewind of this battle here. Just look at the hands of VortiX at the left side. That is the key thing here. Just look at the micro that he's using. He was trying to micro his archers back and forth, trying to pick off the archers. He knows very well that the knights is not something that he can deal with. The longbows, on the other hand, will be able to deal with the archers, and there comes the cavalry. This time around, the walls were not complete. When the first raid happened, the walls were completed, which means that VortiX was able to see that the knights are crossing. This time around, he did not see it, and you see the result being much more devastating. VortiX is losing villagers left and right. He's down to 37, and on the other side, he's trying to launch a counterattack, but that is just bumping into the defense of Beastyqt. Now VortiX is down to 38 villagers. And once again, we're looking at an English player that's struggling with villager population. He still has a big group of longbows and spearmen, but you gotta wonder if VortiX will be able to do anything with that, because right now Beastyqt is sitting at 63 vills over 38. Beastyqt wasn't particularly cautious with those knights. He did lose all of them in the end, but now we are seeing a Castle Age come in. That's a Castle Age for Beastyqt, I presume. Indeed, he's dropping the Abbey of the Trinity right now. That should allow him to start picking up relics. Speaking of relics, he should have access to 2. There's 2 on the north. The other 3 on the bottom part of the map should be inaccessible right now, but even just 2 relics is very valuable. And of course, getting to Castle Age would mean that he has access to siege weapons, which is basically the kryptonite of English. Once mangonels arrive, suddenly things are getting very interesting here. Horse archers could be a reality, so you could see Beastyqt launching counterattacks through the north with horse archers, or he could just go for veteran knights, veteran archers. And I don't see VortiX being able to get up to Castle Age, or am I wrong in this? Because VortiX is piling up resources for Castle as well. That English farming eco is suddenly kicking in. Oh boy. Are we gonna see a comeback attempt here once again for the English player? Wouldn't be unprecedented in this series. Warrior Monk now queued up by Beastyqt. VortiX now knows he needs to get up to Castle Age ASAP. The problem is that he needs to ensure he doesn't lose this army, because we could see something very similar than what we have seen in the previous game. English player losing army, and then suddenly the counterattack would just wipe him out. That could be a reality soon. Siege Workshop was being built back at home by Beastyqt. He's got the first mangonel coming in. On the other side, it's still just longbow spearmen, as the longbows are trying to find a new angle to attack from. Veteran archer also on the way for Beastyqt. He's got no veteran knight being queued up though. He doesn't have a ton of knights, so it's understandable he's not going for that upgrade, as the King's Palace is now on the way for VortiX. That's going to act as his second town center, which means that he's not going to fall any further behind when it comes to villager count. But of course, he won't be able to cut into that villager deficit, given the fact that his opponent has 2 town centers already. Looks like I see barracks being added by Beastyqt. It's a bit of a risky call. I would think that he's assuming that his opponent is still far away from Imperial or Castle Age. Because, if you think about it, adding men-at-arms against the English is a bad idea with the Rus, because the English men-at-arms will be way better with the clad armor. However, if you're anticipating your opponent not having Castle Age for an extended period, men-at-arms makes a ton of sense. So this is telling me that Beastyqt isn't expecting VortiX to be up this soon. Knights and archers now moving out. We do have 1 mango on the battlefield as well. Now that we have gotten to Castle Age, demolition ships are also a reality, so that's something that VortiX will have to be considerate of as well. His opponent, Beastyqt, is still the only player with water control. There is no docks for VortiX here. If VortiX gets a dock up, he could get some hawks going, and that would be quite decent to cover the shoreline and potentially prevent enemies from crossing. Speaking of which, there might be a dock being built on the right side. There was a sneaky villager moving out. Sacred Site being captured right now by Beastyqt. He's going to capitalize on that as well. He still has some fishing ships working, which is also nice extra for him. Still a decent amount of food income coming from that, as he's burning through the walls, and now the villagers being sent out to make those walls happen. These walls that were never finished at the beginning of Feudal Age are now going to be completed, and now Beastyqt is sitting back and chilling. This is a bit risky, because right now he has a big advantage, and given time, VortiX will be able to come back, and VortiX's late game economy with the English will be spectacular. But you also have to respect the fact that the Rus late game composition is a juggernaut. Especially the long range Springolds being able to wipe out any siege that the English can bring in is something that's very threatening to the English. So you get the feel that Beasty might just try to turtle up and play a slow game here, knowing that if this game goes into late Imperial, beating the Rus over there is very difficult for English, if not impossible. We're seeing some crossbows being added as well. That's probably a reaction to the men-at-arms preemptively. Right now, I just see spearmen coming in, though, from VortiX. He still spears and longbows. That could be quite dangerous, given the fact that his opponent has veteran archers, some men-at-arms, and some mangonels. Those are being burned through. Mangonels are thinking about opening up on those spearmen. I wonder if demolition ships will become a reality here. Mangonels are now setting up, and this is something that VortiX will just retreat on. He knows very well that the mangonels are not something that he can fight against. Mangonels open up against the tower, Knights will finish it off, and as you see, down south there is a sneaky villager dropping some outposts. That's going to make life very difficult in the long run for VortiX, and also it secures some relics for Beasty. Beasty is bringing in some more relics, and now the army numbers are growing really fast. 69 army for Beasty, very nice, 48 for his opponent, VortiX. The concern for VortiX is that he has no answers to those mangonels, and we're not just talking about one mangonel, we're talking about 3, 4, 5 mangonels here. That's a ton of damage output. One volley, and the entire army of VortiX could be wiped out. And of course, Beasty even has the river control, so he can fall back behind the river in case he's getting overrun by superior numbers. His composition is looking quite healthy. Some knights, some men-at-arms, some archers. On the other side, it's only longbows and only spearmen. Currently, VortiX doesn't have an answer to the unit composition of Beasty. As a forward castle is being placed by Beasty, very ambitious, very aggressive castle, but a castle that he can make. And he's also capping the sacred sites, putting his opponent on a timer now. And that's going to be a Vololo attempt. He's going to divert the attention of the opponent, trying to Vololo the lumberjacks. That might fail, though, because the spearmen are nearby. Unless Beasty is distracted. Oh, Vololo attempt. Oh, he's actually attacking with the warrior monk. He didn't pop the Vololo just yet, and that's gonna be a failed effort. That's gonna be a very failed effort. He didn't see the King's Palace being there, so he didn't know about that. The bigger problem was that he didn't couple this with an attack, so VortiX had the chance to just look over there. If this was coupled with a big attack in the middle, where VortiX has to focus on his longbows, he probably would have gotten away with that conversion attempt. This being said, of course, the army numbers are much larger for Beasty here. He's looping around with some knights, trying to find an angle to get some raiding going, and his men going down the forward buildings. This is looking very grim for VortiX, because if you look at his army at the top, there is still not a single Springald on the battlefield. Just look at the diversity of that unit composition for Beasty. Whereas on the other side, for VortiX, it's all about the longbows that will die to the mangonel fire in just a split second. Beasty is sending in a couple of men-at-arms over here to probe this position as he's sending up the mangonels. Mangonels little exposed over here, but they unleash a volley on the spearmen. They wipe out quite a lot of spears over here. First Springald on the battlefield for VortiX. Springolds are also coming out for Beasty though, as his men-at-arms and archers are staying back for the time being. They're trying to push an angle that's currently well defended, but you can see that Beasty isn't really stressing this. Beasty knows very well that he can afford to play a slow game here. He doesn't need to make any risks. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's volleying in the opponent. He's getting some night raids going over here. That's a beautiful raid coming in from the left. He's able to kill quite a few villagers on that stone mine. That's 2 villagers, 3 villagers potentially. And in the middle, now you see the counterattack coming in. The Springald, the lonely Springald from VortiX is pushing up, trying to get those mangonels killed. On the north, a new castle was planned by Beasty, and that's going to pretty much suffocate VortiX. Pin him inside the base, and there is the Vololo attempt. There is the Vololo attempt, and that's a resign! VortiX is just going to resign upon seeing that Vololo attempt. Oh my goodness. What a move. I mean, I feel like the Vololo attempt was just the cherry on top of that cake. Because, let's be honest, even if Beasty didn't Vololo those villagers, he wasn't successful Voloing, that's very important. He didn't get the conversion. His opponent resigned before the conversion. But I do believe that what basically happened is that VortiX saw that, okay, by the time I run out of that circle with my villas, I'll probably lose like 10-15. And given the circumstances, given the fact that I have 2 castles in my face, 5 mangonels I'm facing, and my army is just way inferior compared to the opponent's one, I don't have a shot. So really, even without that conversion, the chances of VortiX here were quite minimal, because his unit composition wasn't really capable of beating what Beasty had. And with that, Beasty takes the win with the Rus here on Mongolian Heights, pushing himself once again to a lead. 2-1 right now is the score. We're playing a best of 7. That's actually wrong on the overlay, so apologies for that. I forgot to change that. Yesterday we also played best of 7s in the quarterfinals, and I forgot to change that there as well, but it's a best of 7 we are playing, which means that Beastyqt is not at match point just yet. It is going to be the first player to get to 4 wins. We're moving on to VortiX's home map in game number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to VortiX versus Beastyqt game number 4. Spawning it on the southern part of the map, we'll have VortiX playing as the Abbasid dynasty in blue, and on the left side of it, we'll have a somewhat surprising civilization selection over here. It is going to be the Chinese in the hands of Beastyqt, a civilization that's very appealing, and I do have an idea why this could be an interesting matchup. But we'll have to see the entire map for this one first. We're playing Lipany, if I'm not mistaken, which is a map that the Abbasids love. It's a map where the berries are so plentiful that the Abbasids can capitalize on it so effectively. Of course, the Delhi is pretty much always banned, so if Delhi was available, that would also be an option over here. But why is the Chinese an appealing civilization big here? Because it's a slightly off-meta, in fact, it's a very off-meta civilization selection for an open map like this. But hear me out. What would the Abbasids do in a 1v1 setup on a map like this? Probably play something like 2 town center into fast castle, right? Now, if there is a civilization that might be able to do something comparable to that, that could be the Chinese. I'm not saying that this is necessarily a great matchup for Chinese, but I understand the concept of Beasty selecting this. Because at the end of the day, if he's playing with the Chinese, if he wants to go for the same 2 town center boom, let's say, as VortiX does, he would have the Song Dynasty available as well for him. Alternatively, he can go for a fast castle and go for Palace Guards, and we have seen that Palace Guards is a very dangerous enemy, so I get the feel that there are a lot of options here for Beasty. As weird as it sounds like, I think the civilization, in terms of like brute force power, is better on this map for VortiX with the Abbasids, but in terms of flexibility and in terms of sort of upside and appeal, I like Beasty's civilization a lot here. And keep in mind that Beasty would also have his Abbasids available for a future game. This being said, he wasn't particularly successful finding sheep for himself. He's only operating with 1 scout. He has an officer out already, though. On the other side, VortiX is also playing with just 1 scout. And in terms of the mill, you see that the villagers are, to a certain extent, touching the berries. That's not a great start for the Chinese player. If you're supervising that mill, you want to make sure that you are doing work on sheep or hunt with that mill, not necessarily berries. Not a complete disaster, but in Dark Age, you prefer to have your scout just carry in some sheep, and then, of course, you will consume that with your villagers. So I would expect our red player Beasty to switch his villagers from berries to sheep now that the new delivery has arrived. Looks like VortiX was also comparably successful finding sheep, which is a big win for him, of course, because he's living off the berries, so every sheep that he takes is 1 less sheep for the opponent here. Economy wing on the way for VortiX. He's dropping the lumber camp right now. Hasn't started mining stone just yet, but if he, of course, he's gonna have to mine some or chop some wood at the beginning to be able to even drop that mining camp. That's a forward. That's a Barbican rush. I was sort of praising Chinese for their flexibility. I was praising them for all the options they could go for. 2 town center Song Dynasty, fast castle Palace Guard. It's gotta be much more simple than that. It is going to be a Barbican rush followed by a tower rush here. And this could work. This could be very dangerous, especially if you can drop that Barbican on that stone mine. It looks like it's just going to be at the middle of the map, though. This feels like just a staging ground for a future assault. And yeah, it's gonna get cancelled, and it's gonna get pushed closer to those berries. Being hidden. I'm a little puzzled by this one for Beasty right now, because this isn't going to do much. Now, one thing that this Barbican does is that it establishes a foothold, so you can use it as a staging ground for future tower's aggression. But it's also something that's very passive, and every second you delay, the probability of VortiX having a second town center and just out-booming you is going to be larger. So you do have a certain window to use here. Now, this is a matchup that we have seen in the qualifiers. In fact, I think it was Mista versus 3DB, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been in the qualifiers, or it was a winner stays on set. I actually don't remember, but I think it was... Yeah, it was the qualifiers. It is indeed it was game number 2 of the best of 7 qualifiers, deciders, the second qualifiers of N4C, where B went Chinese and went for a full tower rush. In the end, B was able to take down Mr. Abbasids here, because tower rushing with the Chinese is extremely powerful. You build your towers really fast, it's difficult to get rid of them with the arrow slits emplacements, and your economy behind that is not so weak, because the Chinese, part of the reason why most other civilizations wouldn't be very successful with such a tower rush is because you have to sacrifice so much of your eco to be able to get those towers up. You need to have 6, 7, 8 villagers up front to build those towers. With the Chinese, you can afford to do that because you will supervise your mill and lumber camp, and this way you will increase the efficiency of the few villagers that work back at home. New tower coming up as we speak. VortiX getting close to the stone he needs for the town center, but he's very low on wood, and you see he's relocating his lumberjacks to the south. This could work for Beastyqt. This is the thing that Mista had a tough time stopping against B. We haven't seen this attempt ever since then, though. And we have to keep in mind that Beastyqt is a meta player, and this is heavily off meta. So, the main comparison is that while B was able to pull this off, B is one of the more crazy players of Age of Empires 4. He's definitely someone that can pull off some very amazing and crazy strategies. Whereas for Beastyqt, he just plays standard. So, for him pulling off a heavily off-meta choice like this is something that could be a little more difficult. This being said, his opening here so far is quite decent. His opponent, VortiX, is responding by dropping an archer range, getting some archers out. But this is the thing here, especially if you have textiles for your villagers, which I think that Beastyqt has, it's going to be difficult to kill those villagers. And you see, VortiX is looking for those vills, but he cannot find them, or can he? He doesn't have a visual confirmation, and they could be hiding in the stealth forest. Oh, they're still hiding. They're still hiding. The archer's looking for them. The archer's looking for them, but he can't find them. He can't find them, and that's the stealth forest element over here. Beastyqt sneaking up on his opponent, and it looks like VortiX lost track of them, and he's like, oh shoot, where are they? Where are they? And the villagers are creeping forward. It's happening. It's happening. Now VortiX has the scout back, so he's going to see those villagers from a longer distance. Villagers haven't started making the tower. VortiX knows very well that if he lost track of those villagers, they're probably close to his base, and there they are, 2 archers getting close. Only 3 villagers building that tower, but the archers are not closing distance. Tower at 30%, villagers are being pulled to burn it down. That could be a failed attempt by Beastyqt, because I think that many villagers will be able to get rid of the tower quite fast. 1 villager will be taken down here from Beastyqt. He's trying to get the tower up with everything he's got. He's going to get the tower up this way, jumps inside, and you see he's focusing down the scout. He's focusing the scout because he knows that the key thing here is making sure that VortiX cannot see future towers. And that's the reason why VortiX is running away with that scout. He knows fully well that it's all about just making sure that the opponent cannot spot new towers. Looks like the tower is going to get burned down before the fortification is complete. And with that, Beastyqt is going to lose a couple of villagers here. And this is what I was referring to. It's difficult to pull off such a crazy off-meta strategy. Second town center up for our blue player VortiX. Currently villager count is 30 to 27, but we're seeing some horsemen hit the field here for Beastyqt, and that could help quite a lot against those archers. Still, now Beastyqt has to make a move, because so far he wasn't really able to do much damage, and that's the main problem. VortiX had to relocate 1 wood line and make an archer range, and that's it. That's minimal damage done by Beastyqt, and he has sacrificed quite a lot for this push. The towers on the right side are functional. He's aware of that second town center, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen from the POV. But he currently has no tools of pushing that, and he's also going to have food control issues soon. As you see, he's running out of sheep. He's forced to use berries for now. He's charging him with the cavalry. That could be a good fight for him. And if he can beat back the archers, he still has a window to potentially drop a tower, maybe on the gold mine. If he can hit the gold mine, he could prevent the opponent from getting to Castle Age, which would be a nice start for him. I think he might go straight fast Castle, actually. Beast is banking up a ton of food, and this will be a great moment, especially if he collects attacks and then potentially supervises the gold mine. This would be a great way to get to Castle, get some palace guards going, especially if the palace guards were made at the forward barracks. That should be the win condition here for Beast, or at least that's probably the best thing that he can do. Forward barracks into palace guards. We have seen that palace guards is something that the Abbasids have a tough time stopping, because unlike men-at-arms, they're much faster, so it's a little more difficult to pursue with crossbows, if you even get to Castle Age to get crossbows out. But the most important thing is that the palace guards have an easier time chasing down villagers, which means that just a couple of palace guards can wreak havoc in the eco of VortiX, and VortiX is nowhere close to Castle, I do believe. Beasty ready to go into Castle Age. I wonder if he makes the clock tower up front. That would be very cheesy, but imagine that. Make the clock tower up front. He still has a bit of a buffer with that Barbican, for example, and he's got some forward builds. Okay, he's making the clock tower back at home. No crazy ideas over here for Beasty, but it would have been very interesting to see the clock tower being made close to that Barbican, because then you would have a staging ground where you can just start massing Nest of Bees and potentially Springolds right in front of the opponent's base. Same thing with the barracks. These could have been made at the front. There's a couple of forward villas over here for Beasty that could have been used for that purpose. These guys out here. So that could have been a thing. Now, one thing we have to highlight in terms of gold control is that that's something that's going to be somewhat lacking for VortiX. He's currently using this gold mine. There's 2 on the north of his base and 1 on the left. So still plenty of gold to work with, but in the long run, he's going to have to work towards cleaning up all of those forwards. Otherwise, his opponent could easily pin him inside his own base, and then it's going to be very difficult for him to get access to gold. Looks like here comes the wall from VortiX. VortiX is not a big waller, but he's realizing that he's going to have to buffer up against the castle age of the opponent. He's going for walls right away, but his base is quite open, and it's going to take quite a lot of time and effort, and of course a lot of wood to wall his base off. So he's going to have to invest quite heavily into these walls. Palace guards being queued up as we speak. You could see an officer supervising the barracks for slightly better production here for Beasty. His opponent is at 46 villagers over 36, so 10 villagers lead as we speak. But the biggest thing right now for VortiX is that he's still in Feudal Age. I wonder if he's going up because Beasty wants a castle. Beasty knows very well that this game, it cannot go long. This game cannot go longer than, let's say, 13, 14 minutes. The moment VortiX gets to Castle Age, he can go for crossbows. And if he gets to crossbows, it's game over, because the crossbows will wipe out the palace guards. And you see, there's only a handful of palace guards added here. It's all about having some sort of army to escort those villas, and it's going to be a very aggressive castle. In fact, it's not even going to be just one castle, I think. It's going to be the first castle being dropped on that second TC. And then after that, you will see a second castle being used as a follow-up. Looks like the villagers are sneaking around. Beasty is going to spot the villagers being sent towards the berries, and he's trying to hide those villagers for the time being. So for now, Beasty cannot drop the castle. Here comes the castle. That's a little too passive to my taste. It's guaranteed to go up, sure thing, but it's not doing anything aside from denying a patch of berries, which is, well, not so spectacular in this scenario. Beasty used up all his stone on that, which means that he's not going to be able to drop a new castle. I wonder if he's still mining stone or not. He might have pulled the stone miners, actually. Yeah, he's dropping in stone income per minute. 2 stone mines are nearby, so he could mine some stone for himself here to drop a second castle, but as I said, Beasty cannot afford to drag this game out longer than 15 minutes. Looks like we're going to see new berries being approached by VortiX. This is something that makes it very raidable for Beasty, and Beasty knows about those berry patches. He needs to know that it is all about the raiding that he can do on those berry patches. VortiX increasing his cavalry numbers, and you get the feel that VortiX is getting closer and closer to what could be Castle Age. The castle here from Beasty takes down 2 horsemen, 3rd horseman goes down. Hand cannon slits on those towers are working to great effect. As VortiX is trying to launch a counterattack, once again, a new tower is being built by Beasty. He's still trying to sort of just surround his opponent here, and he's doing that quite convincingly, but he's no longer mining stone, so a new castle is not a reality. Instead, we're still not seeing any more palace guards being added. I'm a little puzzled of what exactly Beasty is doing here, because his push definitely stalled out. He's got some palace guards, but that's basically it. Okay, now he's switching to stone, so his stone income per minute is increasing. I think he's seeing that window. There is still a window for him to drop a forward castle. The window is quite tight and small, I would say. But especially if the opponent is spending some of his forces for a counterattack, he might be able to get himself a window where he's able to drop a forward castle. His opponent currently sitting at an 18 villagers lead. There is a counterattack coming in. Palace guards tempted to jump on the villagers, and I think this might be a diversion. This might be a diversion to try and force the opponent to defend on the wood line. The counterattack is being launched by VortiX, and as he sees the palace guards coming in, he's going to send his forces that way. Stone count still not spectacular for Beasty. He's going to have a couple of spearmen to deal with those horsemen. I feel like Beasty could have done a lot more damage with these forwards if he was a little more aggressive or ambitious, especially with that forward Barbican. That could have been a lot more devastating. The castle was fine. He realized that he might not have a chance to get it up, but as I said, he's on a timer, because the moment his opponent gets to Castle Age, and that's getting closer and closer, VortiX has 700 food and 700 gold in the bank. The moment his opponent gets up to Castle Age, The crossbows appear on the battlefield, and when the crossbows appear on the battlefield, those palace guards will get wiped out. Also, of course, his opponent would be able to make siege weapons immediately on the battlefield. So you could see mangonels, you could see springolds appearing. I think that Beasty has a solid 2 minutes window at maximum because his opponent is about to click up. So from now on, it's a 145 wait for Beasty, for his opponent to get to Castle Age. Indeed, here we go. Castle Age on the way for VortiX. Clock is ticking for Beasty quite heavily. He's at 47 villagers as opposed to 69. Very nice villager count for VortiX there. Beasty, of course, has supervised buildings, which means that his eco efficiency is slightly better than the opponent's one. Once again, palace guards are swooping in. Beasty's got the stone for a castle. I think this is the time to strike. You have to divert the opponent's attention. Best place to do that would be trying to push the right side. You could try to chop through the forest with a villager, send in the palace guards, pull the forces of the enemy to the right, and then drop a castle in the middle. That's probably your best bet. Palace guards retreating to the safety of the castle for the time being. Army numbers, not spectacular for Beasty. Halfway up to Castle Age is going to be VortiX. That window is closing very rapidly here for Beasty. He's got the stone for a castle, but how is he going to place it? He doesn't have the numbers for it. And this is what a tower rush does to your eco. It's taking a toll in your economy because your eco isn't going to be spectacular by any means. Tower being placed right now as a staging ground. I think the castle will be placed right next to the tower. It's not going to be super aggressive, but Beasty knows that at this point he can't finish off the game. I think he knows that he cannot break into the opponent's base. So the second best thing that he can do is try to just even things out here. Drop a forward castle that pretty much destroys that forward town center, and with that, even the game out. Palace guards are swinging to the right. That's the diversion that you're talking about. There's the chop through. Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan. You chop through on the right side, force VortiX to send all of his forces out there to control that. Send all the forces this way by pulling all your forces this way, and you will use that window to rush up a castle on the other side. And that's exactly what you're seeing. The palace guards actually just run past the wood line over there. They didn't even care about the chop through. As here we go, palace guards coming in as a diversion, and I don't even have to look at the left side to see that there is a forward castle that's being placed. There is the forward castle indeed. It's going to be on the gold mine, and this is exactly what Beasty needed. It's not going to be a super aggressive castle, it's not spectacular by any means, but it's at least putting his opponent into a very difficult position, and now those villagers, if they start dropping towers, or even better, start mining that stone and dropping another castle, that could be spectacular. There's a 26 villagers lead right now for VortiX, and he's got the better army, but he's sort of cornered by multiple towers and castles. I feel like the castle that would finish off the game and win the game potentially for Beasty is still yet to be built. Horseman will clean up the villager that was chopping through on the right side, but once again, this is a diversion. A diversion that Beasty can utilize to get some Springald towers going, fortify them, and as I said, if Beasty is able to get some more stone in the bank, he could think about the next castle, and that would be devastating. Horseman with veteran upgrade now in for VortiX, he could take a decent fight against palace guards. He's going to have, of course, the mobility component that helps a lot for him. He's also adding some man-at-arms here to fight off the palace guards. One thing that Beasty needs back at home now is safety, because those horsemen are being sent over to counterattack. Spearmen would work nicely, and if you supervise your barracks, you can get those spears out quite rapidly. As a ram push is about to begin against those castles. One thing that you have to respect is that the Chinese castles deal with rams a lot better than standard castles do, because the hand cannon slits do a ton of damage to rams. As you see, one of those battering rams is already half dead. Here comes the push. Villagers will have to be pulled here for Beasty. He's trying to mine as much stone as he can, but he needs to address this issue. He can't let those villagers die. He's already behind in eco quite a bit. Villagers indeed making a run for this one. They could throw some torches on those rams here because no one really seems to care about them. Here comes the counterattack from VortiX, doing quite a lot of damage on those gold miners. And despite the fact that Beasty probably should have expected that counterattack, it comes as a surprise. Forward tower with fortifications now being burnt down. 87 villagers over 51. And you get the feel that once again Beasty has that forward, has that power to harass the enemy, but he doesn't have the power to finish him off. And now VortiX is starting to capitalize on that larger and larger eco. I think that the window here is rapidly closing for Beasty, because he's unable to finish off the opponent, and now that extra eco is kicking in for VortiX. We're seeing him at 90 villagers over 50. Nesto piece could open up against those infantry though, and that could be a great volley that comes out of there. First volley misses the target over here, palace guards still standing strong, but VortiX does have access to all resources. In fact, you see, VortiX has so many resources that he could think about Imperial. I think Beasty's window is closed now. I don't think Beastyqt can push this one anymore. His army is inferior compared to the opponent's one. 80 population against 151. I think those castles need to be a little more aggressive. Of course, he couldn't finish them. Or at least, it's very likely he couldn't have finished them. But I think it would have been better for Beasty, especially rather than dropping that second castle, to just pull, even if it takes all of his eco, pull 25, 30 villagers and drop a castle right next to the town center. He would have lost 20 villagers doing that, but he would have placed the castle with hand cannon emplacements right next to the opponent's town center. Because you know very well that you're playing 1 TC versus 2 town centers of the opponent, so you know very well that your opponent is going to have an eco lead. I think VortiX is going into Imp. I saw something being researched on the... No, that's just preservation of knowledge, okay. He's not going into Imp just yet. He was thinking about it for a brief moment, I think, but now it's just going to be preservation of knowledge. Horseman getting a decent raid going on the wood line of Beasty here will help quite a bit. Pinning Beasty inside his base. Now it's double the villagers. 98 versus 49. I still don't know how Beasty has any chance of winning this, but he's gonna have enough stone for a castle. So we could see another one. I think for VortiX, the only thing that he needs is a couple of trebuchets. He needs to start trapping down those castles. He hasn't started doing that just yet, but the moment he starts trapping down those positions, he's just going to get rid of those castles in his face, and then there is no chance for Beast to win this. Battering rams now coming in, no trebuchets just yet. VortiX still has some gold income. That could be the concerning part. As I said, he's running low on gold. In fact, this gold mine is gone. This gold mine is being denied, and the other two on the front are also being denied. Forward castle now coming in here. It's going to be built by Chinese builders, so they build it rather fast, but there's a couple of horsemen trying to poke away at them. The castle should go up with the palace guards and a nest of beasts coming in here to escort. It's the last hurrah, really, for Beasty. He's trying to get a castle up here on the right side, but there comes the push on the left side. It's going to take down that castle, most likely. As I said, the castle is doing a ton of damage to those battering rams, so it's going to take quite a lot of effort from VortiX to take those down. Would have been slightly easier to do this with trebuchets. In fact, the castle might stay up. It's very deceiving because you could think that the Chinese castle is basically the same as any other castle against rams, but that's not true. Chinese castles do a lot more damage. Here come the palace guards though. If there is any hope of Beasty turning this around, it's right here. If he opens up on those villagers on the lumberjacks, that could be a disaster. Is VortiX looking over there? That's the question. Is VortiX looking at his wood line, because the nest of beasts could fire away on those villagers, and if they do, that's minus 40 for his opponent. This could be the only hope that Beasty has. He's losing the castle on the left side. His opponent is readjusting his army. Now it looks like VortiX is finding the burial villas of Beasty. Beasty needs to kill all those villagers on the right side to have any shot at this. Looks like the villagers are fleeing to the right side, but that's basically as far away as they can flee. Beasty's got no functional economy now, basically. He's just pursuing villagers, hoping that he can do as much damage to the opponent's eco as his own suffered from, but I think that the window is now closed. The army numbers are looking way better for VortiX. He's pushing up this castle, and I don't think that Beasty is boiling oil, so the easiest way to get rid of that castle is probably just to go and kill it with infantry. Nest of bees are behind this one. This is a great possibility for Beasty to cut into that villager deficit, though. He opens up against the villas with the nest of bees. That's gonna be quite a few casualties. Villagers getting taken down by the nest of bees out there. A key portion of VortiX's eco is still exposed on the right, and this game is getting more and more reminiscent of the English game. The game where Beasty had that forward and he's just chasing his opponent left and right, and VortiX wasn't able to access resources. VortiX lost a bunch of villagers on the berries now, and he's on the right side. Look at that mass migration. What is that? That's like 66 villagers on this screen, fleeing the forces of Beasty here. Still, there is men-at-arms to guard them, so while they're fleeing, at least they're alive. That's not something that you can say from Beasty's eco, but look at that, the volleys of the nest of bees unleashed upon the villagers. At least 10 casualties out there, springolds opening up against the nest of bees. Palace guards being sent in to deal with the springolds. One springold goes down, but 2 more remain. And once again, Beasty was able to do some damage, but the damage that he has done is nothing comparable to what he's suffering from. And as long as those springolds are out there, they will take down the nest of bees. Beasty's at 83 population, his opponent's at 151. Beasty isn't going to give up on this easily, but being honest, I feel like it's just a matter of time, because his forces are being ground down more and more, and you see that his pushes are less and less impactful. So now if you look at his army, it's 39 military population, but that's a little deceiving because some of that is Nest of Bees only. So in terms of Palace Guards, the numbers are somewhat minimal. Nest of Bees opening up on the infantry of the opponent though. Beautiful volley hitting the man-at-arms. Boiling Oil also helping in this battle, but VortiX seems to be confident in his numbers advantage. He's jumping on the Nest of Bees right away. Another volley comes out, wiping out most of the archers. But the Nest of Bees are now gone. Rams getting pushed back. Boiling Oil also wiping out a lot of men-at-arms. And VortiX knows that this is a very ineffective engagement, but he also knows that he could get rid of this castle right here, right now. On the left side, he cleans up more villagers from Beasty. Beasty is down to 35 villas only. And at this point, his army numbers are actually comparable to his villager numbers. 28 army to 36 villagers. VortiX is still struggling to access resources. And part of the reason why is because he's just not going for a single trebuchet. I think if he went for 2 trebs, he could easily clean up those castles without resistance. He tried to go for battering rams, which is not going to work that well against Chinese castles. But slowly but surely, VortiX is able to grind down the forward of the opponent. And the problem here for Beasty is that he's going nowhere. It's not like Beasty is building up an economy behind this one with 4 town centers, right? It's not like Beasty has anything going for him right now. It's all about the fact that his forward was hoping to finish off the opponent before the eco of the Abbasids will kick in here. And that's not the case over here. Beasty's mining stone once again. He's got stone for another castle. You gotta wonder where exactly he's planning to drop that. But the bigger question is, does he even have the window to drop it? Chinese villagers do work very fast when it comes to building. But when so many units are nearby, you gotta really wonder if he has a window to do this. Is that all the villagers? It looks like he's pretty much pulling all the villas he has. There is still some barrier villagers, some stone miners back at home, but you gotta wonder if he's going to just pull all the villagers to drop a castle somewhere. Not exactly sure where though. He's repairing that castle, he's dropping a castle on the left side. He's still playing for barrier denial. I think that at this point, if VortiX gets rid of one of those castles, he could just march straight into the opponent's base and destroy the landmarks. He's still, for whatever reason, very stubborn, not going for trebuchets, although now the first one is out. And I think once he has like 3 or 4 trebuchets, it's game over. Beasty won't be able to hold those castles. The only reason why Beasty was able to hold those castles is because those work well against rams, unlike other castles. Beasty currently at 70 population, his opponent has double that. 142, 49 army against 93 villagers for VortiX. 30 army versus 42 villagers for Beasty, so much lower population right now for Beasty. He's still trying to hold this one, trying to wall his opponent in. But you get the feel that this game is just nearing its completion, simply because there is nothing going for Beasty here. He's not giving up on this one early, and I value that. He knows that this is an important set, this is an important game. Both getting a villager kill out there for Beasty. Even the nature is working against our red player right now. But I get the feel that Beasty is just not giving up on this because he's hoping that his opponent makes a mistake and he can take like one crazy forward castle to potentially swing the battle back in his favor somehow. Also, we have to keep in mind that Beasty does not know that his opponent has a massive lead when it comes to economy. So, part of the reason why Beasty's playing this is because he doesn't know that he's behind by 50 villagers. Looks like the man-at-arms are being sent over by VortiX. That's the right decision. You got castles in your face, but Beasty has no defense back at home. So, you send over 50 men-at-arms and burn down the landmarks. Speaking of landmarks, the Barbican is in the middle, so you wouldn't be able to get that. But you can get the clock tower, you can get the town center, and you can just finish off his entire eco. All in the while, trapping down these buildings over here. Second trebuchet is out as well. It's just a matter of time. Villagers of Beasty being pulled to repair the castle is pulling up the springboards. He might be able to get one trebuchet. Indeed, the volley comes out, trebuchet gets taken down, second trap goes back, but the man-at-arm counterattack now starts slaying all the villagers here for Beasty, and Beasty has no response to that. Beasty's army is 19 palace guards that won't really fare well against that many man-at-arms. Looks like now Beasty is sending in one last hurrah here. He's sending in all the infantry, but I don't think that he knows that his opponent has quite a lot of infantry back at home to fight this. He's trying to jump on that town center, but there is enough springboards, men-at-arms to take this down. Even the trebuchets are opening fire on those units, and Beasty once again is forced back for the time being. The push from VortiX is pushing into his base right now. He's still trying to get rid of that second town center so that at least the town center advantage is no longer on the side of the opponent. But here we go. I think VortiX is just going for a landmark snipe, but he doesn't know about the Barbican yet. Palace Guard's now trying to jump on the Springboards here from VortiX. Beast is still tempted to push in this one, but that's all that he has. He has basically no food eco, which means that it's virtually impossible for him to replenish his army. And you see, VortiX is burning down Blacksmith and such. This is a long-lost game here for Beasty, yet he's trying to cling on to that. I think if you just focus down the town center, clock tower, and then go for the Barbican, you can win this game here. Beasty is not giving up on this, and Beasty never gives up early on games, so he's definitely one player that loves to grind games. Looks like he's going to take down one Trebuchet with the Springboards. Defensive castle being built back at home by Beasty, but his base is still being burned down, and you see, VortiX is realizing that his opponent's eco is so bad that the best thing he can do is just burn down production buildings, because his opponent is going to struggle to rebuild those even. Now he's going for the town center. I'm really unsure what exactly Beasty's hoping in at this point. If this was the last game of the set, I would understand. But it's currently 2-1 for him, and he should just acknowledge the fact that this game is long gone, because I really don't see anything working here for Beasty. 67 population against 200 pop from the opponent. The only thing that's really missing for VortiX is just Imperial Age. Another castle being dropped over here by Beasty. He's trying to crawl closer. I guess he's going for a landmark snipe. If this castle goes up, there is a realistic possibility of that, but the man-at-arms are now unleashed on the villagers. Beasty's last hurrah is this one. There's no way that he can have anything other than that. If the conversion happens, maybe, but the conversion does not happen. So, no chance to convert the man-at-arms. He's trying to get this castle up, because if the castle goes up, he might be able to somehow snipe the town center and the House of Wisdom. That might be his only hope here, but now Beasty taps out. He was grinding for a long time on this one, but VortiX closes the game out. Realistically speaking, Beasty's window closed after like the 18-19 minute mark. He tried it, but with that, VortiX is going to even the set out, and we are going into an even scoreline once again. 2-2 between these two players, as we are ready for game number 5. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 5 between VortiX and Beastyqt. Even scoreline as we go into game number 5. VortiX playing as the Mongols in blue, and Beastyqt is going to be using the French in red over here. Spawning on the left side is Beastyqt, and on the right side we will have VortiX playing in blue. The map is going to be King of the Hill, and this is a matchup in terms of civilization that's commonly seen on this map. And we have seen instances of either of these civilizations winning it. We have seen the Mongols steamrolling the French, we have seen the French taking down the Mongols. So this is one of those civilization matchups where, really, it's going to come down to small details and how reactions work out. Now, the first thing I'm noticing is that the start is probably terrible for VortiX. If you look at his starting base, he plays the town center to a very small wood line. He's got no gold on the horizon. He hasn't even scouted a single bit of gold. This is overly concerning for VortiX. He's got the Ovu close to the town center, so he can operate with pastures. That's a nice extra. But other than that, the gold mines are disturbingly far away. If you look at this. Gold mines very far away. There's a forest at the back that's definitely a positive. So being able to use this as a backup forest is going to be very nice. But this is not a spectacular starting base by any means here for VortiX. Meanwhile, on the other side, for Beasty, looks like he's going to be quite lucky with that. The wood lines are quite terrible, but if you look at the gold mines, these are really useful. 3 gold mines at the back is an exceptional position to be in with the French. Still, of course, having the food or wood potentially denied by the Mongols, especially if the Mongols come up with towers, could be a source of concern. Now, against the French, the Mongols often open with double spearmen in Dark Age, simply because you're going to be fighting cavalry anyways, might as well start making your spearmen in Dark Age. But it looks like this time around, VortiX is going to play a much more passive and slower paced approach. You could see for a brief moment that he's adding pastures. And every time you see a pasture in Dark Age is a sign that the Mongol player isn't going to play with a ton of aggression. VortiX does have a Khan and a scout to work with, so he's going to have a pretty thorough scouting across the map. And of course, he could use that Khan to harass the enemy. This is something that VortiX does very frequently. So VortiX is definitely one of those players that loves to just use the Khan as a standalone harassment unit. Most players do that, but VortiX is definitely one of those that does that all the time. Every single time he's using Mongols, he's going to have the Khan running circles around the opponent's base, harassing villagers. In fact, I'm somewhat surprised that he's not doing it already. School of Cavalry coming in for Beasty. And on the other side, no signs of feudal age yet for VortiX. He's operating with one pasture for the time being, and you see a mill being dropped by Beasty. He's got quite a lot of sheep to work with, which raises the question of him potentially going for professional scouts. That's always an option with the French, but especially on this map, given how exposed those hunts are, it could be a legitimate approach. Feudal Age is now on the way as well for VortiX. He just dropped what I will believe is going to be the Deer Stones. Indeed, Deer Stones coming in, so no crazy Silver 3 approaches over here. There wouldn't even be any sense to do that because there is no market on this map, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, it's going to be Deer Stones. It's a nice thing to see that, at least in some games in this tournament, we have seen the Silver 3 though. It's not going to be commonly used in 1v1s, but it's nice to see that Deer Stones is not the only landmark that the players experiment with when it comes to going up to Feudal Age. So, nice to see that the Silver 3 was at least used once or twice in the tournament. For now, it's just going to be Deer Stones as one would expect here. Beast is going to spot that. The other thing that Beast will spot is that the opponent does not have any military production buildings just yet. Now, when you're fighting against the French, one thing that you can do is mass spearmen and horsemen. That's a difficult thing for the French to fight against. Looks like it is just going to be wheelbarrow for Beasty to start with on the mill, and he's opening up with a knight. He sees the gold miners, he's coming in to harass them with the 2 scouts he has, and it looks like we're going to have a barracks being dropped. VortiX is mining a bit of a gold, but now he's abandoning that gold mine. The wolf also joins the body, and now the gur is being pulled. Beasty is trying to burn it down, because as the gur is being moved, or as any other building is being moved for the Mongols, is definitely going to take more damage compared to the stationary position. So even just a couple of torches could damage that quite a bit. And as expected, there is your Khan harassing the opponent. Fast blacksmith coming in for Beasty, so he's going to get the extra melee attack for those knights immediately. But the question mark here, and it's a big question mark, is how is he going to deal with those spearmen? Because one of the things that you do when you add a blacksmith is basically say I'm not adding an archer range or a barracks. So he's just going to be playing with pure knights. And that's risky. It's very risky because if VortiX just goes mass spearmen and horsemen, he could be in serious trouble. Now, VortiX delayed his feudal age quite a bit here. You see he's just now reaching feudal at 530. And Beasty is now walling up. You wonder if Beasty will just try to wall up and go straight fast castle. In fact, it's possible he's assuming that VortiX is going fast castle as well, but that's not true. That's not true at all. Hardened Spearman now coming in for VortiX as he's dropping a second pasture. He's moving towards gold. VortiX might be doing a fast castle here after all. Because VortiX is playing this one very passively. The Khan is being very active, trying to harass that one knight. And despite the fact that we do have the Mongols available for VortiX, it doesn't seem like he was doing much with that so far. He's adding a couple of spearmen with double training, but that's basically it. Okay, now here come the spearmen. So suddenly he's going for a little more aggression than initially anticipated. Professional scouts on the way for Beasty. So far, Beasty wasn't really contesting map control, and this is something that VortiX is aware of. He sees that there is only one knight here. He saw the blacksmith as well, which is a sign, as I said, that there is going to be no archers coming in here for Beasty for at least a certain period of time. Hardened Spearman in now for VortiX. He's going to be able to try and potentially take a good fight here against the knight. Yep. The spearmen were able to intercept the knight over here, and they will take it down. Beasty wasn't looking, and he's going to run into a bunch of spearmen. This comes as an early warning though for him, knowing that, hey, I'm being pushed by spearmen very soon. He's picking up the first patch of huntables right now, but the second patch is very close to it, so it's very possible that the second patch will become inaccessible once the spearmen arrive. Back at home, VortiX is playing exclusively with pastures, no surprise about that one. This makes his eco very compact and defendable, making it difficult for French to attack it, although there is no desire right now from Beastyqt to do any kind of aggression. Looks like he's just trying to get up to Castle Age, but here's the deal. His hunt is now being cut off, and VortiX himself, having the very efficient Mongol economy, is piling up resources for Castle Age, so we're seeing just 2 fast castles here by the 2 players, and then of course it's going to be double Lancer plus maybe Spearman for VortiX, whereas on the other side, you're likely going to see some Knights and Archers being played by Beasty. I love the walls from Beast on the north, by the way. Even though he's not fully walled, one thing that this is giving him, as you see, he's dispatching the scouts to prevent the opponent from blocking that wall, and with that, he's going to have the walls in the middle. Even if he isn't able to complete all the walls, one thing that this will give him is a chance to just have a partial walls and limit his focus to one part of the map. So having the north guaranteed to be secured is already an accomplishment, because you can say, okay, I'm confident defending the north with my walls, might as well just focus all my efforts on the south. Resource banks are looking identical as one scout gets poked down by the spearman. But the big question right now for VortiX is what his unit composition will look like in Castle Age and what he's expecting from the opponent. Because oftentimes the mind games will be too big here. Maybe you're expecting your opponent to go for spearmen because you're making cavalry, so you start adding men-at-arms. Or maybe you are starting to add even horsemen because you're expecting your opponent to go for arbaletier to counter your own knights. So there's a lot of mind games involved in here. One thing is sure, Beastyqt will see that step redout coming in as his knight is retreating from the gold mine. It was pushed away by some of those spears. And it looks like we're going to have a stable, so there is definitely going to be some Lancers coming in, and now Beast is realizing that he might not have the window to pick up the hunt on the south, so he's just trying to steal the hunt of the opponent. He might get intercepted in the process though, and you see, the Khan pops the speed arrow, and the scouts are struggling to escape from this one. But now those scouts aren't really able to do much. I wonder if they're actually heading towards the gold mine to do some harassment. Knightley's trying to charge in here, gets a villager kill with the charge. Spearman still trying to push it away. That's the first villager casualty of the game. Now, however, the scouts are getting surrounded by the spears. That's 2 more scouts down for Beasty. His entire professional scouts play was reliant on those scouts, and he really didn't get a lot of value for it because he was able to ferry in like 5 carcasses at best. Archers now on the battlefield for Beasty. But as I said, Spearman and Lancer as a combination for the Mongols is something that looks quite scary and should be superior compared to Knights and Archers. Beasty's got some Knights coming. He's going to try and raid the gold mine of VortiX. And VortiX, who is also up to Castle Age, is dropping a second Archer range as we speak. He went up with the Guild Hall and he's now walling himself up. This will be the tough nut to crack here for VortiX, because if Beasty walls himself up entirely, it's going to be difficult for him to do any damage, whereas VortiX cannot wall himself up. He's going to get constantly raided by all of those knights, and that's going to make life very difficult for him. Walls are being completed as we speak, so the Lancers should not be able to get in. The Khan is still doing some damage here. He's actually getting a villager kill. Nice retaliation from the previous incursions by Beasty. There is the counterattack coming in. Veteran Knights picking off a villager. You could see that there was a dead body over there. So another villager went down here from VortiX, but he's going to be able to potentially retaliate by taking down this villager. One more arrow, and the villager goes down. Nice move from VortiX. So both sides lost 2 or 3 villagers in these battles so far. But Beasty, he has 41 villagers as opposed to 34, so the French faster training is coming into play here to a certain extent. Looks like we're seeing Knights, Archers, Arbaletier being mixed in by Beasty. So far, his opponent wasn't really able to contest his map control, and you get the feel that VortiX could be in trouble. Because one of the things that VortiX has, for example, is a ton of wood, and for a brief moment I thought that he's just unbalancing his eco. Well, it's not really an intention to unbalance your eco, but he just wasn't paying attention to his eco. But no, that's not the case. It's a second town center. So he's going for a different path than I originally imagined. What I thought he would do is that he will be very aggressive contesting map control, preventing the French from capturing the middle. But the second town center is not a bad idea, especially because the Mongols don't have to use stone for that, and they don't have to mine stone for it. So all they have to do is just send villagers to wood and make a town center. And breaking a stalemate like this one can be done with a second TC, but that's the same idea for Beasty. So Beasty is also dropping a second TC, and that means that the villager advantage will not be in the favor of VortiX, at least not for the time being. And a concerning thing, I think, right now for VortiX is that if he gets pushed off from the middle, the thing that's gonna happen is that Beasty will drop a castle in the middle, and from this point on, he will be the one defending, and VortiX will have to attack that central area. Looks like we're seeing a villager being pulled up. I wonder if this is for a forward tower, just so that the YAM network is over here, or just so that you have some line of sight in this region. So far, VortiX was able to track those knights very effectively. He's got the Khan accompanying those lancers, so I'm fairly certain that he saw those lancers leaving to the north. Although, did he see that? It's a chop through. It's a chop through for that villager. That's always an option, of course, when the forests are used to wall. And I wonder if Beasty is going to spot that. Especially because Beasty is going to be quite busy. Oh, the Khan shoots the wall. That's a problem. That's a very big problem because by the Khan shooting the wall, you get an attack notification for Beasty. This could be a deciding factor in this one because Beasty is able to call off the villagers. He's going to get a second layer up and that chop through attempt is not going to materialize. Knights on the other side are launching a counterattack and it's the Khan's fault. It's the Khan's fault because the Khan shoots the wall. And with that, Beasty got an attack notification. He will just look over there to see what's going on. And by that, he's seeing the chop through attempt. If the Khan wasn't there, I think that chop through would have been successful. Two town centers going for both players. Villager lead in the favor of Beasty. But now he's going to have a chance to unleash some knights on the opponent's eco. There's a couple of spears over here that will take the fight. But that's veteran knights coming in to fight them. And they will push back the spears very easily. Villagers jumping into the town center. But there's just so many villagers that could be raided on the gold mines. The other wood line. There's a prayer tent for VortiX. He wanted to go for relics. But now it is Beasty who has the villager lead and who is the aggressor in this battle. Nice macro from VortiX jumping back into the town center. So far he didn't lose a ton of villagers. But of course, this is buying a lot of time here for Beasty. And that is the time that he needs to drop a castle. This is the recipe. We have seen this recipe being used over and over again in these French-Mongol games. French player launches a counterattack, the opponent has to address that issue, and that window that is created by that counterattack is going to be used for a forward castle. Now, there's a couple of towers being placed in the middle, and one of them has a spring golden placement coming in. There is still some lancers out there, so VortiX is not abandoning the middle entirely, but as things stand, you're going to have the castle going up here. There's a couple of lancers moving in. Arbaletria should be able to respond, and with those villagers being pushed back, it looks like the towers won't be able to stop the castle. This castle is going up here for the French player. One villager here having suicidal thoughts for Beasty, trying to charge into the battle. And this is exactly the diversion that you want to create with those knights. You force your opponent to address that issue. Send some spearmen back, send some forces back, and in general just focus on his own base. And as that is happening, you drop a castle in the middle, and then you have a foothold. And from that point on, you will just fortify that foothold, capture the sacred site, and put your opponent on a timer. Spring golden placement for Beasty coming in on his own castle as well. He still has an 8 villagers lead. 2 town centers working for both players here. Looks like the knights could once again loop around, try to hit the eco of the opponent. And it seems that the guild hall is set to gold right now. It has just now been emptied, so it's currently only having 20 gold in the bank. New towers are being built by VortiX. He knows he can't take that castle down right now, so he's just trying to get some fortifications in the middle with towers. Because his idea will be that he just wants to prevent the opponent from capping the sacred site. That could definitely slow down Beasty's advance towards a potential victory. Because obviously Beasty wants to cap the sacred site, put his opponent on a timer, and that's it. VortiX collecting relics quite effectively as the knights are coming in from the north. First Mangle is out here against the archers, but as long as that castle is out there, that's not going to do much, and Beasty is preemptively dropping that siege workshop. He's getting springolds going. Against Mongols that can make siege weapons on the battlefield, that's a wise choice. You have to always maintain that springgold advantage, because you need to make sure that you're not getting your army wiped out by mangonels or your trebuchets, or your opponent's trebuchets taking down your castle. Knights are coming in from behind here. You can see that on the minimap, this counterattack here could be quite devastating, because I think VortiX pulled most of his forces to the middle, and indeed, no one is there to protect the gold miners. VortiX will have to abandon that position. And behind this one, Beasty started stonewalling his base, because he knows very well that one of the chances that his opponent could have is just to counterattack his base. Now, Beasty is splitting up his knights, trying to get some raiding value for themselves. Once again, just give himself a window for a potential second castle. You see, he's sitting at 400 stone right now in the resource bank. He's also working towards relics now, sees the spearman getting all the way back into the base. One thing that Beasty doesn't know about is that his opponent has a second town center as well. So it will be interesting to see what he does when he spots that. He's now seeing the second town center. He's going to get a couple of villager kills here. In fact, quite a few villagers could go down, but he's not playing greedy. Beasty knows very well that he doesn't have to take a decisive win here in that battle in the opponent's base. He just needs to slow the opponent down. First Traction Trebuchet out here for the Mongols player. He's starting to shell the castle in the middle. He's also a little low on food, so he's going to have to add some pastures, which will obviously slow down his push because he's spending his food on making pastures rather than siege weapons. Right now, the middle is not controlled by anyone. Second traction trebuchet coming in. But of course, I wouldn't be very surprised to see Beasty piling up some springolds behind this one. He knows about the trebs. And springgold-wise, I think he has one right now. There's 2 siege workshop behind this one. So Beasty should have no problem getting a couple more springolds going and then diving in, sniping those trebuchets. It's a bit of a face-off in the middle, but Beasty, of course, has a slightly better economy, and this could propel him to an advantageous position. Archers were sent to take down the veteran spearmen being sent to deal with the knights, and once again the knights are looping around. It's going to be those constant raids, and if you can accompany those knights with a couple of archers, this will be difficult for VortiX to clean up. So far, he used his spears to push away the knights. Now he's gonna have to find a different tool to do that, because spears alone won't do the trick. Trebuchet number 4 coming in, and you gotta wonder... Oh boy, that's a disaster. That's a disaster. You should wait with the archers here. If you're Beasty, you wait with your archers, because you want to wait until the knights arrive. Those are the damage-dealing units. Here come the knights on the gold mine. Idle vultures left and right for VortiX. He's not even noticing his vultures getting slain. Now he's retreating to the town center, but it's just going to be a little too late. He's losing like 10 vultures plus in that battle. And of course his army is getting forced back, and I think now Beasty is going to push those trebs. If I had to predict, he's pushing up with the springolds right now, trying to take down the trebuchets, because this is the window that he needs to use. One of the groups of knights is getting killed. The other side, some knights detached from that main group will be going for the lumberjacks. Trebs are still standing strong in the middle, but I think they are about to be taken down by Beasty's forces. Beasty has done a masterful job with this raid, and now he's exploiting the fact that his opponent has way less mobility, killing so many lumberjacks. In fact, this issue has not been addressed just yet by VortiX. Springolds are now rolling up. This is the time where Beasty needs to take down 1 or 2 of those trebuchets. VortiX is losing his entire eco behind this one though. But as VortiX is addressing that issue, this is the time for those springolds to open fire on the trebuchets. And that's exactly what Beasty is going to do. Castle still standing strong. The trebuchets took some arrows, I think. Where are the trebuchets at? Our observer wasn't watching the battle, which is a little surprising. He was watching the opponent's base. I'm not exactly sure why, but I think it seems that at least some of the trebuchets were taken down from middle. There's still 4 of them shelling that castle. Now here come the springolds. Face off on the north with the arbaletier and the knights, but this is the push that you want to make. You sacrifice your springolds here if you're Beasty for the sake of keeping that castle alive. He's unleashing a volley on the first trebuchet, gets 1 taken down. On the north, knights are getting cleaned up by the crossbowmen. In the middle, it looks like 1 trebuchet was pushed back, the other one was damaged. New group of archers and arbaletier heading towards that gold mine. Sacred Site now being kept by our red player, Beasty. He also yoinked the relic from the middle. Springolds trading off in the middle. This is going to be a 1-for-1, but the archers are heading towards the base of the opponent, and with the archers and the crossbowmen over there, they will take down the men-at-arms. Castle still standing strong over there for Beasty, and now he's pushing his opponent away from the gold mine. All those vultures have to make a run for that one. In the middle, the Sacred Site is not being capped anymore. The monk was taken down, but the archers are heading straight into the base of VortiX here. Beasty now has a gigantic eco lead, and it looks like the entire army of VortiX has to be called back to deal with this. So many spearmen, they should have no trouble dealing with the arbaletier. The question is, how many villagers will fall victim to this knight push before they're getting cleaned up? Because you see that the arbaletier are just throwing away all the attacks from the opponents, and this is the window that Beasty is using to kill so many vills, and ultimately pushing his opponent down to 58 vills, using that window to counterattack the middle, throwing a couple of torches against those trebuchets with the knights, pushing up with the springolds. Beasty is gonna be able to hold the middle, and by using the mobility of his forces, he's pinning his opponent inside his base, and forcing him to call off his forces from the middle, and that window is being used to fortify that middle even more. Defensive towers being placed back at home by VortiX. He's guarding that gold mine for the time being. But of course, Beasty is now in a very good position. He's ready to capture the Sacred Site in the middle, and just brute force population is in his favor. So, somewhat similar to the previous game, where it was VortiX who had a massive eco lead and eventually massive army lead. Now it is going to be Beasty in the same situation. Massive eco lead, quite a decent army lead, although the army numbers are still rather close. But keep in mind that VortiX has a lot of trebuchets, which increases his military population quite a bit, but it doesn't add manpower to that army. Whereas for Beasty, he still has a lot of arbaletier. He's got some springolds going, And the thing is that right now, Beasty is just more than happy sitting back behind castles and getting the springboards going. He captures the sacred site, starting the sacred site countdown. From this point on, VortiX has 10 minutes to push this. He's got 4 trebuchets to work with right now, making some springboards to take down the opponent's siege. But once again, Beast is going to use his opportunity to raid the opponent's gold eco as a tool to slow down the opponent, divert his attention. 4 towers on that gold mine. Technically, all villagers can jump inside, but you gotta wonder if the knights will commit against the towers here. 4 springboard towers are no joke, so you gotta be careful here. But if they can burn down 1 or 2 towers, they could easily get the villagers killed. Looks like they will retreat for the time being. But once again, in the middle, for now, there is no sign of VortiX pushing. He's at 69 army. That's a very nice number. He's gonna have the numbers. The question is, when is he going to make that push? 9 minutes left on the clock. Beasty is going to see those trebuchets crawling up the hill, so he knows what he should expect when it comes to army numbers, and I'm fairly certain that the recipe is the same. The moment VortiX will try to make a push in the middle, Beasty will send in his knights to his eco and say, okay, you push the middle, I destroy your eco. He's just waiting there. That group of arbaletier and knights are just waiting for the opponent to make a push in the middle. That's exactly the plan here for Beasty. Once again, knights are swooping in, trying to get some damage on the gold miners. VortiX's reactions are swift. He's setting up the trebuchets. That's not a joke. 5 or 6 trebuchets shelling that castle. Look at that volley, destroying the tower immediately. Apparently those destroyed towers are there as like broken models in the game, so you can see those little non-existing towers still floating around there for VortiX. Now that's a lot of firepower he has for those trebuchets. Right now Beasty has 8 springboards to fight this one. VortiX only has 6. But of course here for VortiX, he's more than happy to trade off his springboards to the opponent's springboards and then just be done with this, still trap down the castle. Knights are looping around from the back, so there's technically a chance to try and jump on those trebuchets. The cavalry looks like Beasty might give up on one of those castles. He's waiting for his springboard numbers to pile up. Knights are now being sent towards the opponent's base here though. Quite a lot of spears here to defend, but the knights will just ignore them. Or are they gonna fight? It looks like as VortiX is distracted, now the springboards are coming in. They will trade volleys here against each other, but the numbers are better right now for Beasty. And if he wins this battle, he's gonna have a window to take down all those valuable trebuchets. Next volley comes out, still some trebuchets out there. Of course, springboards numbers looking rather even. 7 for Beasty though, and it's dropping for VortiX. VortiX lost most of those springboards on the battlefield. So did he lose all the spearmen back at home, and that's the bigger problem. He might be able to take down this castle, but what's the price of that? He's losing his villagers left and right, pulling all his eco, and you see that his eco is just an absolute train wreck right now. He's able to take down a castle here potentially, but even that is a bit of a question mark, because the knights are coming in, the springboards are rolling up, spearmen trying to help out against all those cavalry, but the springboard volley from Beasty will take down one trebuchet, a second trebuchet is getting taken down, and with that, the push in the middle for VortiX is stalling out. His entire eco behind this one is getting devastated and ravaged by those knights. This game is over here. There's no chance for VortiX, and he knows that. Beasty securing game number 5 here for himself. The double siege workshop, key move from him. Because if you think about it, all that Beasty needed to accomplish in the middle is make sure that he's got the majority when it comes to the springboards. He needed to make sure that the Mongol player isn't able to overrun him with springboards, because as long as Beasty has the springboard number advantage, he's gonna be able to pick off the trebuchets, and that he did. He used his mobility advantage very effectively. The moment his opponent made the push in the middle, he sent in the knights and he started killing the opponent's eco. Even if he lost the middle for a brief moment, he would have been happy with that, because he would have said that, look, you got the middle now, but I got your entire eco. And with that, Beasty is taking a big win here with the French against the Mongols, and he's pushing this onto a match point position. He's 1 game away from making it into the grand finals of N4C. He finished in the top 2 of the Swiss stage. He was 2nd place. And he's very close to getting into the top 2 of N4C here. Key game coming up here for VortiX. It's going to be on his own home map with Rus, Abbasids, and Chinese remaining. Whereas on the other side, Chinese, Mongols, Abbasids remaining for Beasty. Something has to be wrong here. Hang on. Something has to be wrong, because VortiX definitely lost his Abbasids. Or actually, he won that, and Beast lost his Chinese. So I forgot to cross out the civilizations for the Lipane game from before. So some of the civilizations are inaccessible. Mongols, Abbasids remaining for Beasty, and on the other side, Rus and Chinese for VortiX. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game number 6 between VortiX and Beastyqt. Match point for Beasty. He is one game away from getting into the grand finals of N4C. Once again, these two players have met in the Swiss stage, day number 1. In that set, Beasty won 3-1. We're jumping into high view with Rus being controlled by VortiX in blue, and on the other side, Mongols will be the civilization selection for Beasty in red. This is the traditional matchup to a certain extent of this civilization, or this map, excuse me. Because, believe it or not, one of the things that the Rus can do here is something that the Mongols have the perfect answer to. Oftentimes, you're seeing the Rus player going for hunting cabins in the stealth forest, because that gives you a very nice and consistent gold trickle. And that is something that the Mongols can exploit, and they can just burn it down. Looks like Beasty's aggroing 3 wolves over here. That's a great start, of course. Because we have Rus on the battlefield, handled by VortiX, we're going to see a fight for the wolves and, of course, the deer. But especially the wolves on high view. That's the reason why you're picking Rus over here. But you get the feel that Beasty was expecting the Rus to be picked over here. He knows very well that the Rus is basically the meta pick on this map. And he's got the Mongols here. And as I said, while the Rus can place the hunting cabins in the stealth forest for a gold trickle, if the Mongols ever find those, they can burn them down, and that way they can get their burning bounty. So the Mongols have a great response to the Rus placing hunting cabins all across the map. This is not something you commonly see nowadays from Rus, but it's definitely an option for them, and especially if the game goes long, it's pretty common to see the Rus players dropping hunting cabins everywhere. Looks like VortiX is pretty low with the bounty count so far, only at 50, but he's just now starting to clean up all of those huntables. He's going for the hunting cabin right now, adding some more scouts. And he's bringing in some wolves, so he should jump to 150 very soon. 2 or 3 wolves trailing him as we speak. And it looks like Beasty wasn't really contesting those hunts. Keep in mind that the Khan needs 3 arrows to take down a deer as compared to just taking 2 from a scout. So the Khan takes quite a lot of time to take down the deer here. For this reason, it's almost mandatory to add a scout as well if you're playing the Mongols. Ideally, you aggro the wolves with your Khan and you just use the scout to take down the hunt. That didn't really work out over here for Beasty. Not a disaster though. He's going to be able to clean up most of the hunts, and so far his opponent's on that 175 bounty, which is a significant accomplishment if I may say so. Looks like it's going to be 2 more wolves coming in. So 250 will be achieved here for VortiX, but on this map in 1v1, your desire is in the range of 300, 350. So that is a bit of a question mark here. Looks like VortiX, picking up that last patch of deer on the south, should be able to get to like 300. So in the end, he actually gets a reasonable amount of bounty for himself, but Beasty did quite a decent job denying as much bounty from him as possible. Golden Gate coming in for VortiX. On the other side, Beasty is not going up to Feudal Age just yet. I wonder if he added any kind of production buildings. I don't think that he did. Yeah, he hasn't added anything, but he's a little too heavy on gold. You see, he's at 220 in terms of gold, 340 food. So he's gonna have a little more gold than what he needs and a little less food. Not exactly sure if this is intentional. It might be intentional, him delaying Feudal Age and basically just saying, okay, I want to pile up some extra gold. But it's also possible that it's just a slightly unbalanced deco here for him. Whoopsie, looks like I was muted for a brief moment over here, so I was talking to just myself. Do apologize for that. There is one scout going down from VortiX. That's going to hurt a little bit. And one of the things that you can accomplish with those Rus scouts is, first of all, harass gold miners. Second, you can burn down the Ovu. So you gotta be careful about here with this one for Beasty. Beasty's rushing up a barracks with like 6 wheels. You know very well that he needs some spearmen to push away those scouts from his potential Ovu being destroyed. This being said, it is going to be the barracks completed. Scouts are still harassing the gold miners, and Beasty is still mining stone relentlessly. I wonder if he wanted to go for professional scouts, and that's why he's mining this much gold, or he wants to go for wheelbarrow. Either of those are a possibility, but he seems to be working towards an upgrade that he needed gold for, and it's going to be wheelbarrow. So Beasty was forcing that gold mining over there because he wanted to grab wheelbarrow for himself. Now he's going to have Spearman to defend against all of those scouts. And looks like VortiX's opening is going to be Knights, which means that he's going to have a good response to those Knights as well using the Spearman. The Khan took a beating from the town center, but it's still alive, which means that it keeps harassing those gold miners. And as the game goes forward, of course, the Khan gets stronger and stronger. So eventually, that Khan harassment is going to be even more annoying, but looks like that. VortiX is trying to cut off the escape path over here. Scouting Falcon is going to be deployed by Beasty. He pops the speed arrow, and he will just disengage here. On the other side, you could see professional scouts being employed by our blue player, VortiX. So he's going to start ferrying in there. Another question becomes what exactly Beasty is going to do. Because Fast Castle is always an option here with the Mongols, but it's also an option for the Rus. So this is where things are getting interesting. The Spearmen do brace for impact. They do stun that Knight, and that's going to help quite a lot. Spearman once again getting some nice hits. The Khan still survives, and it looks like the Knight is going to be potentially sacrificed here to try and take down the Khan. Failing to do so will result in that Knight being picked off. It's at 7 HP. You can't heal that up now, though. Khan is only doing 1 damage per hit, but you can just pursue that Knight for the time being. That Knight is not really going to be a factor in combat anymore. Archer range being added for VortiX here, so he's going to play Knights and Archers. Whereas on the other side, it looks like we just have a couple of spears here for Beasty. He's going for a very eco-focused approach, dropping pastures right now, which means that he will probably try to work towards a semi-fast castle style approach here. Looks like a bit of harassment is being done here by Beasty. He's using his scouts to harass the opponent as well. And VortiX tried to send over this Knight, get some harassment done once again. He might get a successful villager kill, actually. That's a big one. Oh, nope, villager survives. That's the difference between a French Knight and a Rus Knight. A French Knight takes a charge and a hit with the sword to kill the villager. Here, for a Rus Knight, it takes a charge and 2 sword hits, unless you have blacksmith upgrades on them. So, part of the reason why the French are slightly more effective with these Knights raids is because they need 1 less hit to kill a villager by default. This being said, the idea was great from VortiX. He had a low HP Knight, he wanted to try and get a villager kill with it, and now the Spearmen swarm another Knight. One of the things that Beasty is doing so well in this is always bracing a Spearman. And that's not an easy thing to do. Because you have to do some microing with that. But he's always bracing a Spearman, and with the Spearman being braced, the Knight is going to charge into that, Knight gets stunned, and then he's overrun by spears. So this is the second Knight that was killed by Beasty using this technique, bracing with 1 Spearman and then using the rest to just jump on the Knight. Tower up in the middle. This is going to provide a lot of vision for Beasty. Of course, it's also expanding his Yam network, but the real power of this one is that he has the central area, and this is something that he's gonna be able to look at, look into the stealth forests, and one of the key components of gameplay on this map is knowing where the opponent is coming from. Because all those stealth forests could be very sneaky, could be very dangerous, and if the enemy pops out with like 5 Knights right next to your base, you will feel really bad about that. Now, Beasty, as I said, is playing a semi-fast castle approach here. His opponent is making a battering ram to try and get rid of that tower, but as you see, Beasty is piling up resources for castle. But behind this, he's also adding archers and spears. But this is a deadly combination for Beasty here. He's gonna have a formidable army. In fact, his military population is larger than VortiX's one. Yet he's much closer to Castle Age than his opponent. VortiX is not going up to Castle Age right now. He's committing all his resources into Knights and Archers. And Knights being quite expensive, it's going to take quite a lot of effort for Beasty to stop. But of course, it also means that VortiX is committing all of those resources into stopping those expensive Knights. The Khan spotted that force moving forward, so Beasty knows they're coming. He's got 12 Spearmen, 6 Archers to fight this one. And if he repels this attack, his opponent is gonna be in a very difficult spot. Second defensive tower coming up on that Ovu. Looks like the battering ram is actually avoiding the tower in the middle. It's gonna be a straight push into the base of Beasty, but this feels like desperation to me, I'm not going to lie. VortiX's army isn't going to be large enough to escort this force. He's got 12 archers as opposed to 7. 14 spearmen, however, for Beasty versus only 4 knights. And it's very easy right now for Beasty to reinforce the battlefield with a couple more archers. So the archer number advantage will soon fall into the hands of Beasty. These rams should not be able to accomplish anything here, simply because there is not enough army here to escort them. Here comes the ram push. This is something that Beasty is aware of. Patience is key. Getting a couple more archers, getting a couple of spearmen out could immensely be helpful, as we have the spearmen now thinking about engaging. The M network is also affecting things here. Villagers with the M network also pushing out here, trying to get some torches on those rams. It's gonna be a dance back and forth between the two. No upgrades from the blacksmith for either of these players, but of course Beasty behind this one is getting close to Castle Age. So it's now or never almost for VortiX. This is match point for his opponent, his tournament life on the line. And indeed, there's the step readout coming in. Now, the moment Castle Age hits for Beasty, VortiX has to go. He can't wait for Castle. The thing is that the moment Beasty gets up to Castle Age, he's going to have a couple of men-at-arms probably popping out. He could get the veteran upgrades on those archers and the spears. So, at latest, when Castle Age kicks in for Beasty, VortiX will push. But this is looking very grim for VortiX, I'm not going to lie. 27 army versus 31. That's not going to be enough here for VortiX to devastate the opponent's base, and he needs to win a decisive fight here. This timing push might work out. He's going for the Ovu right now. Archers assembled back at home. There's a blacksmith for Beasty, but he hasn't gotten a single upgrade on those. Still waiting and patiently trying to slow down the opponent as much as possible. He's giving up on the Ovu. He's pulling the blacksmith back for the time being. Still trying to build up his archer numbers and spearman numbers. First tower, now under attack. Spearman will try to jump on those rams. Once again, rams are dancing back and forth. It's a very delicate micro between the two players right now. They know very well that the outcome of this battle could decide the outcome of the game. Castle Age is in, and now VortiX will go. VortiX knows that this is now or never. If he doesn't fight right now, his opponent is going to have the Castle Age upgrades and it's game over. There is still one tower helping out, archers opening up against each other here. Spearmen still affected by the Yam network. They're going for those rams. The rams are being pulled back for the time being. Spearmen slightly mismicroed though, running into the archer fire. Castle Age versus Feudal Age. And the blacksmith being hidden on the right side. I think that's right next to a stone deposit for a new Ovu potentially. And it looks like VortiX is not committing. VortiX is not committing. He's piling up the food for Castle Age. But does he have the window? Because the thing is that right now VortiX is grabbing upgrades. And the moment Beasty has the upgrades, if Beasty grabs those upgrades, he's going to win a decisive fight here and destroy the opponent's army before VortiX can get to Castle Age. That's the danger that VortiX is facing right now. Second range being dropped. VortiX is out of food underneath the town center. This comes at the worst possible time. Really, because he needs that food. And I do want to highlight one very clever thing here from Beasty. He has he has spearmen on that hunt. That's huge. Because right now the easiest option for VortiX to get food is to send out villagers towards that hunt. And he would just bump into those spears. VortiX still not going up to Castle Age. 34 population on army versus 33 army population for Beasty. But Beasty's got some men-at-arms coming for him. I don't think he has gotten Castle Age upgrades, which could be a bit of a saving grace here for VortiX. Indeed, there is no veteran spearman, there is no veteran archer just yet. But here come the villagers. They're being pulled to try and take down the battering rams. Archers are opening up once again. Knights will get a good jump on those archers. Spearmen also focusing down the battering rams. Spearmen now being able to hit those knights, however. Villagers once again being pulled. This could be a decided battle here. All the infantry now unleashed on those archers. Looks like it's going to be a retreat from VortiX for the time being. Now being pursued by those archers. Spearmen are being sacrificed here as a meat shield. But now with men-at-arms joining the party, they will be the ones absorbing the arrow fire. Beasty is still under a lot of pressure and he doesn't have gold. That could be a serious problem. He doesn't have gold. And he cannot go for those Castle Age units or Castle Age upgrades without gold. Where did that gold go? He should have a gold mine on the north. And it's not being pressured right now. Jumping back into the town center is Beasty. Could this be a possibility for VortiX? Could he win this game right here, right now? He doesn't have a chance. If this push stalls out, it's game over. So he has to go. Villagers are being pulled by Beasty right now. He's willing to sacrifice his eco, knowing that if he stops this push, he's going to have a window to use his Castle Age units, and then he will just rebuild his eco using a second Town Center if needed. He pushes back another battering ram. The push is still quite intense in front of his base. Archers and knights still fighting it off. Looks like some crossbows will be mixed in. Those will be very effective picking off those knights. But VortiX isn't able to do much over here. He's not giving up on this one easily, of course. He knows very well that this is match point for the opponent. Still, he's struggling to access food. He has a 10 villagers lead right now, thanks to the fact that he didn't lose a single villager here. But you also have to consider that the Mongols have the Steppe Redoubt. And on the other side, I think Castle Age upgrades are getting closer and closer for Beasty. Now he has a window to mine gold. And when that happens, he's going to get Veteran Archer, he's going to get the Veteran Spearman if needed, although Lancers, even better choice for Beasty. Those are expensive on the gold cost, so he couldn't afford them until now. And I wonder if he's going to use the Lancers to defend here against the Knights and the Archers, and they would be quite useful for that, or if he's going to send them over to the opponent's base. A couple of Lancers hitting VortiX's eco here would be devastating. Here comes another ram push. Once again, Beasty will probably be thinking about taking those down with the villagers. Beasty has no wood, by the way. That's one of the things I want to highlight. He's at 1 wood right now, 0 wood per minute. But he's got some men-at-arms, he's got some Lancers, and I feel like the window is shrinking and shrinking right now for VortiX. He needs to finish off his opponent right here, right now. He's committing all his resources to his Feudal Age push here. This is going to be a pretty decent battle between the Lancers, men-at-arms, and the Archers. But the numbers are looking way better right now for VortiX. Considerably better. And we could see a swing in the battle here suddenly, because Beasty isn't really able to access a lot of resources, and with that it's difficult for him to maintain producing those Lancers. He's pulling all the villagers trying to take down the battering rams, but his numbers are still not there, and his opponent is just going for a full Feudal Age army. Now the villagers run across the Archers, and so many villagers are going down here for Beasty. He's down to 35 eco. It looks like he's able to take down the battering rams. He's down to 12 army, only 47 population, however, and the new battering ram is approaching the battlefield. How long can Beasty hold this? He needs to find a way to have consistent economy working for him. Because if he finds a way for that, he's gonna be able to replenish that army. He still has the Lancers coming for him, and slowly but sure that Castle Age army starts to prevail. But you see that the pastures are having issues. Beasty is running out of sheep because the pastures don't have amazing numbers right now. And he doesn't have the wood to make new pastures right now. He's behind by 15 villagers. If VortiX finds a way to Castle Age, he's all good. The problem for him right now is that he's still stuck in Feudal, and this could give a window for Beasty to potentially recover. Burning down those hunting cabins also helps a bit, and now the Lancer counterattacks. It's only a low HP Lancer. Villager Riot will scare him away for the time being. But it's all about that right now for Beasty. He needs to find a window to send over 2 knights to the opponent's base, because he could do a ton of damage. You see all those lumberjacks are exposed as well. Beasty now with quite a lot of food in the bank. He's got some knights queued up, men-at-arms queued up. I'm still believing that the window is slowly closing here for VortiX, but he might still have a tiny bit of opening on that window. I think this might be his last attempt though. If this stalls out, I think it's game over because the Lancers are about to hit his food villagers. Villagers once again being pulled. Bit of a crazy idea here from Beasty. You might even see some desperation in these moves, pulling all the villagers through the army of the opponent. Taking down one battering ram, most like the Town Center is being pulled, and this way, the rams will have to pursue villagers being dispatched to deal with that battering ram. They throw torches, but all the villagers are getting killed. All the eco of Beasty is getting killed, and this might be game. This might be game over here, because despite the fact that he's killing some eco from the opponent, his own eco is just disappearing. And VortiX might have the momentum to push this into game number 7. What an absolute crazy set here. Looks like for now, Beasty is going to retreat, but as I said, you can't afford to throw away that many villagers. He's down to 26. The only thing that's saving him right now is that he's killing a lot from the opponent as well. So VortiX is down to what seems to be just 41. Both players retreating into their bases. And we are once again seeing a game where both sides are taking so heavy casualties in this Feudal Age, early Castle Age period. The Ram Dance is beginning here for VortiX. He's getting ready for another push. Pastures will have to be relocated because right now they're very far away from the Town Center. And I mean, the Town Center is burning, but there wasn't enough wood right now for Beast to repair this. Market coming up. He's floating a ton of gold. That could be a saving grace though. He's floating a lot of gold and he could utilize that to just buy himself some food, get some more Lancers on the battlefield. Spearmen are being mixed in by VortiX though. So he knows very well that if he starts adding spears here, it could be a great fight for him against those knights. And a lot of sheep carcasses are down. You see, this is the problem here for Beasty. He has the sheep carcasses, but those are now lost. Forward barracks from VortiX. He knows that this has to be a full Feudal Age game now for him, and he's coming in with the forward barracks mass migration from our Mongol player. 44 army versus 18 though only, and some of those forces are not back at home for Beasty. As weird as it sounds like now, I feel like the Rus player has the momentum. Because it's brute force numbers. It's all about pinning those villagers inside that town center, at least what's basically left of Beasty's eco. Because Beasty currently is sitting at 27 villagers only. He managed to kill some from VortiX, and now he's going to find a couple more villagers here up front. VortiX needs to find a way to finish this game before he loses his villagers to these raids, but he's on a good track to doing that. He's going to take down another tower over here, villagers being pulled once again, and I wonder what exactly VortiX is doing with all those forward villagers out there. He's basically just joining the party in the middle with his vills. Villagers once again being pulled by beasties down to 24. Spearmen and archers are just picking them apart. Lancers once again join the fight, but with the spearmen bracing, it is going to be impossible for them to engage. 23 villagers remain only for Beasty in a game where he had match point and he reached Castle Age faster than his opponent. It seemed so obvious that he can stop that push because the numbers were so good. But VortiX, insane efficiency with these pushes. The micro, the dancing that he has done is spectacular. He was able to deliver a perfect micro in this battle, and that showed because the efficiency of these battles were spectacular for him. Beasty once again will be forced to pull the villagers. I think VortiX can commit against this. I think VortiX can commit against those villagers. If he opens up with the archers on the vills, he can finish off most of the eco that remains for Beasty. The spearmen are still standing strong. Dead bodies of lancers littering the battlefield. And with that, Beasty has nothing going for him right now. Beasty's at 35 population as opposed to 81 for VortiX. It is full feudal. And the flood is not stopping. There's a new battering ram being built, and it's getting increasingly difficult for Beasty to get any army on the battlefield. All the villagers are being pulled. I believe they're just going for a new wood line because some of those are pretty much depleted. 22 minutes and we're still seeing one player in Feudal Age. That's unbelievable to a certain extent, but it's understandable as well. VortiX doesn't have the window to get up to Castle Age, so might as well just go for full Feudal and finish the game potentially. Triple ram push now coming in. Beasty's got 11 army. Most of those are just knights over here trying to kill villagers, encountering spearmen. The rest of the army, I don't even see it on the battlefield. Villagers are now being pulled. I think VortiX has this. He has a couple more lancers that he has to take down, but that's basically it. Villagers once again being pulled against the rams, but every villager that goes down is getting increasingly difficult for Beasty to replenish. He's got basically no food eco. He's taking down another battering ram. Archers now focusing down the villagers. It's a little difficult to focus them, and now they jump back into the TC. Beasty is doing a great job with the micro, by the way. Like, given the circumstances, he barely lost a villager, and that's spectacular. Still, of course, his opponent is going to do the exact same thing once again. Ram push on that town center. And Beasty is still struggling to even produce villagers at this point. His opponent at 44 vills. I think towers wouldn't be a bad idea here for VortiX. Like, start dropping those fortified towers for the Rus and get some arrow slits on them. That would actually be a nice idea. And now the thing is that the entire eco of VortiX is on the battlefield. They're just foraging from those berries. They are taking the wood over here, which means it's impossible to raid it for VortiX. Right? Beasty can send any army towards the base of VortiX here, but he won't find anything simply because all the villagers of VortiX are now on the battlefield. Barracks being sent towards the Ovu here, being active, trying to harass those villagers. New ram push on the horizon. Beasty is struggling with population. He's at 34 versus 89. He doesn't want to tap out early. I mean, that's obvious. We have seen that in one of the previous games as well. He doesn't want to resign early. He wants to play it out until the bitter end. But I feel like his chances here in this game are next to none. And it would be game number 7 for us if VortiX win this game. And VortiX right now is in a great position to do that. Here come the Rams. They're once again heading towards that town center. Lancers still trying to be active, trying to harass the villagers of VortiX, but they cannot find any value for themselves. In theory, if Beasty is able to somehow kill 20 villagers, there might be a glimpse of hope. And it wouldn't be the craziest thing that we have seen in this tournament so far. This being said, now his starting TC is under attack. Villagers once again have to be pulled, and this means that Beasty, through hard work, he has gotten back up to 24 villagers. He's gonna have to jump out the town center once again and sacrifice the Wills for it. The Khan and the Lancers do move in, and it looks like VortiX is also struggling to keep his own eco alive. Lancers now join the fun over here, but with the town center being burnt down, once the TC is gone, the archers can just massacre all the villagers, and at this point, VortiX is pulling the villagers to torch down the town center. He's like, I'm done. I'm done, man. You're raiding me. I'm just sick of this. I'm just going to send in all my villagers to destroy your town center because I know that that's the only thing that you have left on this map. The freelancers and the valiant villagers repairing that town center are still fleeing to the left-hand side corner, being pursued by rams, being pursued by spearmen. And I mean, the chances of Beasty here are next to non-existent. Villagers are being sent in to try and burn down that town center. The villagers of Beasty trying to repair it, but he's running low on wood, actually. And I think the town center, once he runs out of wood, is going to be gone. There's a defensive tower over here that's trying to fortify this position. That's the idea here for Beasty, but the town center doesn't make it there, and there is just nowhere to go now. There is just nowhere to go for Beasty. His own base is an absolute train wreck. I mean, I don't blame him for fighting it out to the bitter end, but you get the feel that this game is long over. 68 population for VortiX versus 29 only. Truth being told, VortiX has like 30 villagers pursuing the enemy army here, so... Actually, VortiX has no eco. What am I looking at? VortiX has no eco. 20 wood per minute, 31 gold per minute. He's now using villagers to pursue the opponent's villagers and just burn down buildings. It's like, where is he? Mass migration coming to the right side for Beasty. He's very lucky to be Mongols, so he can relocate his base every once in a while. Now the deer stones are being taken down. I think VortiX is realizing that he could just go for the landmarks. Speaking of landmarks, the Step Redoubt is making it out on the right side. Defensive towers are coming up on the berries. That's going to be the only source of resource income for VortiX for the time being. He's got multiple defensive towers coming in on those berries. I'm not gonna lie, Beasty is very difficult to finish off over here because you see he's just so cheeky and so aggressive with those Lancers, coming back every once in a while, and every time that it feels like VortiX will finish him off, Beasty finds a window somewhere to rebuild. He really doesn't want to give up on this, I'm not gonna lie. If he somehow wins this game, which still seems extremely unlikely, it would be a well-deserved victory, and the cherry on top of this cake here for this game number 6. Looks like now his Ovu is going to get found, so once again the buildings will have to flee. Villagers still making a run for it. Soon we are getting to a base trade scenario, because the safest place on this map might actually be close to the base of VortiX now. Buildings fleeing, now that they are moving, they don't have a lot of armor, which means that you can easily take them down. Beast has a ton of sheep to work with, but currently 0 resource income from every single resource. 0 food. He actually has gotten to 75 wood per minute. Congratulations, we're getting there. It's only going to take 20 minutes this way to repair the town center. Just look at a minimap. It's an absolute chaos, an absolute mess. And they're moving to the right side. There's a Gur over there that he could utilize to take sheep. He still doesn't have his town center up though, which means that he cannot make villagers. VortiX at least can make vills. That's a positive thing. Like, VortiX can seriously make villagers. He's also destroying quite a lot of production buildings. I really feel like Beasty is dragging it out a little too long. I don't really like to blame players for playing it out to the end, I'm not gonna lie. But in some cases, I get the feel that this game should be just called and go for the next. Because even though, of course, he doesn't see what I see, I mean, he himself knows he's at 18 villagers. And he knows that he hasn't even touched the starting base of the opponent, right? So, while he of course doesn't know the exact discrepancy in terms of villager count, you have to respect the fact that your opponent had that town center up for so long. Your opponent has the Golden Gate even to balance out his eco, so really, the army number is a lot better. Your opponent hasn't been harassed, and VortiX is able to continuously produce villagers, unlike his opponent. New stable is being built right now by VortiX. He's gonna need some mobility, he's gonna need some cavalry, and honestly, it's very frustrating for him to pursue the enemy here because you have the stealth forests, and the stealth forests are making it very difficult to find the enemy base. This being said, you are probably going to just have the knights at some point finding these forward positions, and really, Beasty's army is exclusively freelancers and one con. That's basically it. And VortiX could just get a couple of knights himself out, try and get some raids going. Beasty's making men-at-arms. So you're telling me there is a chance. The very only chance that I can see for Beasty is if he can somehow build up a fairly sizable force of, like, men-at-arms, and then make a couple of battering rams right next to the opponent's base and go for landmark snipe. That might be an option. Looks like hunting cabins are built all across the map here by VortiX. One of the knights will stop the villagers from doing that, and will probably just burn down that one. Battering rams are chasing that market out there. Look at that. The Mongol buildings do outrun the battering rams, so they can escape from that position. But boy, oh boy, is this an absolute chaos. I'm not even sure how to call this game, to be honest, because this technically is supposed to be a game that should be long over. Yet somehow Beasty is not tapping out, and he seems to have a plan. I just don't know what that plan is. His heart rate is 72, so he's probably just playing YOLO. At this point, like, I can imagine him just sitting there and saying, look, at this point, I just don't want to give up on this. I've been fighting this in this position for like 15-20 minutes. Might as well try this. The men-at-arms actually get rid of the rams, and is there a chance? Is there a chance for Beasty? He was a big believer in the English game where he almost made a comeback. And what I'm thinking is that he's able to raid with those knights. He's doing an exceptional job keeping those free knights alive. And he constantly keeps raiding the opponent. But as long as he doesn't have an operational town center himself, he isn't able to recuperate his villager losses. He's building up a force of men-at-arms, and that's going to help quite a bit. Wood Archer gets picked off by the knights. The thing is, by the way, look at the step redoubt. The step redoubt is in this corner. It's all hidden from the eyes of the enemy, because you know that VortiX will try to just go for the landmark snipes at this point. Beasty is probably building up a force so he can go for a landmark snipe. It's a slow and steady process, but there might be a glimpse of hope. I didn't ever think I was gonna say this, but there might be a chance here for Beasty. He also has men-at-arms, and he could just directly push this angle, maybe. If he pushes this angle, he might be able to get a lot of villagers killed. Still, that doesn't address the problem completely, as the villagers are now scrambling towards those towers. Multiple defensive towers here for VortiX. He knows very well that he just needs to garrison those villas and prevent the raids from happening, and eventually those men-at-arms will be ground down by the tower fire. Knights are also dancing back and forth. Men-at-arms are taking a decent engagement over here. Defense arrow being popped by the Khan. Men-at-arms are taking a pretty good fight here, but VortiX is barely losing villagers. That's the last hurrah here for Beasty. He's getting cleaned up by the tower fire. Men-at-arms this, men-at-arms that. The enemy has a lot of knights here. Enemy has a lot of archers. He does have multiple towers. And the VortiX is doing the right thing here. Fortify yourself and say, okay, I'm doing this. And the problem here for Beast is that he wasn't able to catch up in villagers. If he somehow was making villagers, for example by repairing the town center first, then he might have a small hope, because he could say, okay, I'm going to start killing enemy villagers and I will just catch up in villager count. But as long as he's stuck at 18 villagers, there's no hope for him, because his opponent has a much easier time rebuilding that eco, and it's starting to get a little frustrating, to be honest, to watch, because, like, let's be honest, at the pace that the things are progressing for Beasty, he's never gonna win this game. On the other hand, he's also not tapping out of this. If he tried to go for a push on the opponent's landmarks, I would understand that. If he tried to go for an attempt to repair his own town center, and then try to catch up with villagers while raiding the opponent, I would understand that, but these pushes don't really make a ton of sense for me, and I think now VortiX has a vision on the enemy base here. He's coming in with the rams. There is enough villagers to fight this one, but currently, I think that the archers can be sacrificed just so that you kill the rest of the villagers. Indeed, barracks now being pulled away. Beasty might actually repair this one with a villager. Indeed, he is doing just that, pulling villagers to repair. He doesn't have a ton of wood to do that. There are Springald towers out here. Those will slow down the advance of the enemy. But once again, your sheep, all of your sheep is out there. Those are the sheep that were acquired from the pastures. And if you lose this position, you will lose access to your sheep. You see, the sheep are being sent away as well. And poor sheep, they might be the targets of the slaughter. Because VortiX knows very well that if the sheep gets killed, it's going to be difficult for Beast to access any resources here. Sheep for now safe, as the rams are crawling closer and closer to those towers. I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating to see Beastyqt staying this long in this game with no clear game plan on how to win this, but it's also frustrating to see VortiX quite heavily struggling to win this game. Like, at this point, you could legitimately just think, okay, I'll go Castle Age, I pick up Relics, I take Sacred Sites, win. Anyways, he's now taking a good fight over here. Lancers will be able to trade quite decently against those Man-at-Arms. Now the towers are being taken down. The con is still being annoying here, but now the population of Beast is down to just 23. Production buildings are still standing. Archers now focusing down the villagers here. One villager should fall here. Second villager could be taken down as well. They're doing a nice job jumping back and forth inside and outside the town center, or excuse me, the tower. But, oh, come on, Beastie. Just call it. I'm a big believer, and trust me, it would be a spectacular win if he pulled it off, but he's just dropping in villager count. It's a very slow and painful death. At what point is he going to say, enough? He's at 19 population. He's fighting it out to the bitter end, sure thing, but I really get the feel that this is a game that could just be called any moment. Tower is gonna get burnt down, villagers once again jumping back inside, new battering ram is coming in, villagers once again taken down. He's doing a great job with the con, and I really feel like if he actually had a town center that's functioning, he would have a chance. Because this way he would be able to cut into that villager deficit, but he never was able to decrease the villager deficit because he's not making new villagers. He hasn't made a new villager for the last 15 minutes or so. Villagers once again being pulled against battering ram, and finally Beast taps out. Long time overdue, let's just say that. Maybe he was thinking about what to do for the next game. I can imagine that. I can fully imagine that he was just sitting there thinking about game number 7. That's a possibility. And I wouldn't blame him for that. It is going to be a victory for the Rus player over here and a loss for the Mongols. VortiX closes it out to 3-3, and now we're heading into decider game number 7. With only one civilization left for each player, it is going to be Abbasids and Chinese, and with the only map remaining, that's Altai, that should be favoring VortiX actually, because Chinese is just an absolute juggernaut on Altai. Game number 7 will be coming in. We will be going to Altai. Beastie and VortiX at a 3-3 scoreline. The winner gets into the grand finals. It all comes down to this. VortiX versus Beastyqt, game number 7, in a very, very back and forth set. We're moving on to Altai, with VortiX having the Chinese in blue, and we are going to have Beastie playing as the Abbasids in red. VortiX is on the right side of the map, whereas Beastie is spawning in on the left side. Altai, a map that has been frequently played in this tournament, and it is left to game number 7 over here. A matchup which could favor both the Abbasids or the Chinese, so civilization-wise, it's a rather even matchup. But we're going to have to see what strategies the players choose, because this is going to come down to that. A lot of flexibility in terms of choice of strategy for both civilizations. Curious to see how this is going to go, but if you have a sneaky hidden strategy for either of these players, now is the time to pull it, because the winner gets into the grand finals, and the loser will be out at the semifinals level. We have 2 scouts opening for Beastie here, operating on the outside rim of the map, looking for the sheep. Whereas on the other side, I do think that there was also 1 scout at least added by VortiX, which is something that it's almost mandatory with the Chinese. You're looking for the sheep because the Chinese will live off that sheep collected using the supervised mill. So 2 scouts, quite successful sheep gathering process over here for Beastie. He's gonna have like 10 sheep or so gathered. In fact, he's got 13 to work with. That's a great start. He doesn't need the sheep right away, but as we discussed many times, it's a great fallback option, and what's even more important is that every sheep that you take for yourself is 1 less sheep for the Chinese player that wants to live off from it. So, by denying quite a lot of sheep from the Chinese player, you're also going to give yourself a nice little advantage here. Looks like VortiX was also able to acquire some sheep here. He's at 9, and he's right now taking the hunt with that male being supervised. He's got a woodland at the back, which is very nice. But one thing that's not so nice for him is that the left side of his base is very much open. And if you look at the storm mines, those are also a source of concern. Look at the storm mines available for VortiX, that's not great. And while the Chinese isn't guaranteed to go for a 2 town center build here, you definitely want to have that option available as the Chinese. Meanwhile, looking at the base of Beastie, it's actually the perfect base, I'm just now realizing. He's got his berries pretty close, but notice what happens here. there is a gold over there. There is a hunt, 2 forests on the right side. So in the theoretical scenario of Beasty voling this one off over here, he's gonna have a corner with every single resource available. That's spectacular. That's a 10 out of 10 map out there on Altai for Beasty. For his opponent, it's not so great. It's not a terrible map either for VortiX, but Beasty's got a spectacular map over here. He's coming up with the economy wing as we speak. He decided not to go for the lumber camp first. He went for House of Wisdom, mill, mining camp, and house combination. So he's opening with stragglers, only now dropping the lumber camp. Whereas on the other side, Imperial Academy coming in here for VortiX. No risk it, no biscuit, I guess, but this is a very risky approach. Because the moment you go for the Academy, you basically are telling me and telling your opponent that, hey, I'm not afraid of your early aggression. There's probably going to be no early aggression coming in for Beasty. That's basically what building an Imperial Academy means. If you were afraid of aggression, you would make the Barbican. And this could make Beasty a little more confident to potentially push in Feudal Age. Get some horsemen going. I think that Beasty wants to play 2 Town Center, but given the fact that the Chinese can do something very similar, and especially seeing that the opponent is going for the Imperial Academy, one has to wonder if Beasty is going to play this aggressive, so it's a little risky from our Chinese player to just go Academy like that. It might pay off, especially Beasty is not going to play aggressive, but it's a bit of a gamble. You're basically gambling on the opposite player just going for the second Town Center, and I'm not exactly sure if that's what Beasty is going to do. Looks like Beasty is going for the second TC. That's going to be a saving grace here for the Chinese player. And you see, now we're seeing VortiX also going towards that stone mine. He's supervising the stone mine as well. So he's going to play 2 Town Center, fairly fast Song Dynasty. As you see, he's still mining gold. So he wants to get to Song at a reasonable time. And we're just going to have a booming game here. Now, what I'm not sure about is whether Beasty stops at 2 Town Centers. Because one of the things that could happen here is that he knows that he's going to be up against 2 Town Center Song Dynasty, and Beasty might go for free. But that would be very risky. Because I think whoever gets to Castle Age first here could have a massive power spike over the opponent. And sometimes we're seeing the players trying to play free Town Centers, just so that they have an eco advantage over the opponent. But that results in them delaying their Castle Age and getting overrun by Castle Age units. So Beasty has to be careful here. He's mining stone for a second Town Center, but if he actually wants to outboom the opponent, he has to go with free. But if he goes for free, he's risking getting just beaten to Castle Age and then being overrun by Palace Guards. So there's a lot of mind games going on right now. Both sides are harassing the opponent's villagers on the stone mine. Looks like VortiX was successful gathering the stone he needs for a second TC, and it's going to be dropped right next to the first TC. So it's going to be a nice and compact base for the time being. Meanwhile, for Beasty, he's actually very far away from that TC. You see, he is only at 155 stone right now. So that supervising ability for the Chinese player is also coming in clutch here. Now Beasty is trying to deny the gold from VortiX. VortiX can just send out a couple of villagers to mine gold, because as you see, he needs a tiny bit of gold for Song Dynasty, or he could just use the tax gold income. That's also an option. Indeed, he's using the tax gold income as we speak, 184, and fast Song Dynasty is coming in. Barbican will be placed probably up front here, as now Beasty is pulling away his villagers from the stone. So he's also going to be playing 2 Town Centers, as these villagers will surround the scout of VortiX. That's a nice kill. Oh, looks like the scout is getting away or not. Town Center fire finishes him off. But with that, that's 1 scout down from VortiX, and with that, his vision across the map is going to be somewhat limited. Barbican now coming in, so now Beasty is going to be aware that his opponent is going for Song Dynasty, and now it is Beasty who sort of has to scramble for a faster Castle Age. Because, as I said, if the opponent is going Song Dynasty here, 2 Town Centers, and you're just playing standard 2 Town Centers with the Abbasids, your opponent will have a higher villager count because of the Song Dynasty, so you can't just sit back and wait for your opponent to outboom you. Some palisades coming in at the back for VortiX here. So far the game is very peaceful. He will just drop some walls here to make sure that the opponent doesn't have that much room to maneuver. Looking at Beasty, he's sitting at a quite decent amount of food, and as I said, I could see him not even spending a lot of time in Feudal Age booming and just prioritizing going to Castle. And the fact that he's sending so many villagers to gold is a sign of that. I really get the feel that this is the best thing that the Beasty can do indeed. Get to a fast Castle, because, as I said, whoever gets to Castle could get a massive power spike here. Scouts still being utilized to torch down the mill. Not something that's really dangerous right now for VortiX. It's a bit of an annoyance though. Definitely not ideal. Right now it looks like we are going to have VortiX moving out towards the berries. And I do see a barracks being dropped. We'll probably see one or two spearmen pop out here for VortiX. But ultimately this is going to be for Palace Guards. But guess what? Beast is getting closer and closer to Castle Age. And this is a nice combo. Remember, Song Dynasty is effective, but it also means that you're spending 400 food and 200 gold on getting there. This is not something that Beast is spent. Also, Beast has got the Berry Getter raid bonus, Beast has got the cheaper villagers. So Beast is able to pile up resources a lot faster, and because of that, he's able to get to Castle Age a lot faster as well. He's on the way to Castle with the Culture Wing. The question becomes what exactly is going to be his unit composition. I would think he is going to play Men-at-Arms, and indeed, there come the barracks. But with the Abbasids, you also have the option to start dropping the rams with them, so he might go for early rams instead of trying to just run into the opponent's base here. The two town centers are quite close to each other, and they do deliver a big punch, so it will be difficult for Beast to raid the opponent's base. That's something that we have to keep in mind. The base of VortiX is very compact, and it's well defendable. You can see the wings being built, so VortiX is able to see that Beast is going up to Castle Age, because you can see basically the model of the House of Wisdom changing with that wing being built. And because of that, any outside spectator is going to see that, hey, there is going to be Castle Age coming in. Now, it's still not even level 1 Golden Age for Beasty, which is a little surprising. By now, you usually have one Golden Age level at least. I assume that some of his buildings are not connected, so I didn't really pay a lot of attention to that. On the other side, we do have at least 3 officers. It's actually 4 officers now for VortiX supervising his entire eco. And indeed, a lot of the buildings are not connected here to the starting town center for Beasty. That's why he only has, well, level 0 for his Golden Age. He could easily get himself at least level 1. Fairy villagers being sent out to the right side. VortiX is not far away from Castle though, and keep in mind that Chinese villagers build landmarks really fast. So it looks like Beasty isn't going to be able to beat his opponent to Castle Age by a massive margin. Instead, Castle Age will be coming in. And with Castle Age in for Beasty, that's likely going to be crossbows immediately for VortiX. Because we've seen this a lot of times before in this tournament. Abbasids get to Castle Age, they go for Men-at-Arms because that's their power unit. And the opponents, even if they're slower to Castle Age, if they can just get some archer ranges going, get to Castle Age, get 5 crossbows out, they can slow this down. And indeed, that's exactly the game plan here for VortiX. Suddenly, things are not looking so great for Beasty. He's behind by 11 villagers. And if you look at the overall compositions that we'll have crossbows, potentially Nest of Beasts supporting them, taking down all those Men-at-Arms. Those Men-at-Arms should not be able to inflict any damage here, to be honest. Castle Age is in, and it looks like indeed we're going to have some Palace Guards, we're going to have some crossbowmen coming in here. Beasty himself is also going for some crossbows. He's realizing that his opponent is up to Castle, so Palace Guards are a possibility. But the concerning thing right now for Beasty is that he wasn't really able to do much with that Castle Age advantage. He doesn't have the eco lead, and the real alarming thing right now for him, I believe, is just the fact that at this point, we are going for a longer and longer game. And the longer the game goes, the better it is going to be for the Chinese, because of course Chinese will be more than happy to fight a late game scenario like this. So this is going to be a little bit concerning. In fact, it should be quite concerning for Beasty. On the right side, it is going to be VortiX being walled off. The Camel Archer appears on the battlefield, poking and probing around, trying to get some villager kills, trying to do some harassment on that Imperial Officer. Would be very surprising to see any unit being killed by that, but you gotta be careful if you're VortiX. You don't really want to lose a ton of units to that. Man-at-Arms and crossbows now appearing on the battlefield. Keep in mind that you can no longer supervise the clock tower, so you can't just pop out siege really fast for the Chinese, whereas the Abbasids can still make siege weapons on the battlefield. And I assume the combination here will be Palace Guards and crossbowmen versus Men-at-Arms and crossbowmen, but the key factor could be whether or not Beasty can add some siege weapons on the battlefield, because if he's able to add some siege weapons on the battlefield, talk about Mangonels, and potentially some Springolds as well to take down the Springolds of VortiX right now, he should be able to swing a battle in his favor, because obviously he can take down all the crossbows from the opponent. Beasty is adding a Mangonel on the battlefield right now, and this is where we're entering the danger zone for the Chinese player. You do have 2 Springolds right now, but of course the Abyssids can match that number rather easily. First Mangonel complete. Beastyqt doesn't know about those Springolds just yet, so he's gonna have to find out the hard way that those are there. He's dropping 2 Springolds himself. I think he spotted them. Do note that those are Clock Tower Springolds, which means that they have a higher survival rate than the standard Springolds. So it's not enough for Beastyqt to have even numbers. He needs better numbers than the opponent. But of course, it's much easier for him to get those numbers up, and it looks like an Imperial Officer was picked off by one of those Camel Archers. You can see at the bottom left that it's only 3 out of 4 for the officers. That's a big loss. Losing an officer like that is definitely a value that Beastyqt was able to kill. Springolds are rolling up hills for the time being. It looks like Beastyqt is preparing for one big push, and that's the right thing to do. He knows that he's probably behind in terms of Springold numbers at the beginning, because his opponent has been making them ever since he got up to Castle Age. However, with the Abyssid ability to make siege weapons on the battlefield, you can catch up very easily, and using that, you could have a very nice push here. Coming in the next 1 or 2 minutes, forward tower as well. We might see some Springold emplacements over there too. That would give some extra firepower to the forces of Beastyqt. Beastyqt is currently sitting at 16-17 crossbows, or excuse me, 16-17 man-at-arms, 8 crossbows, 4 Springolds, 1 Mangonel. Other side, 5 Springolds, all of those are from the clock tower for VortiX, and he's now crawling out of his base. He's trying to take down that one scout that's overlooking his base. He just wants to make sure that the opponent doesn't have vision, and that scout is gonna have a very bad day. Feels bad, man. That scout definitely didn't like what he got from those crossbows and the Springolds. One thing that VortiX is lacking is actually space. If you look at his distribution of villagers, he's struggling to place new farms because he has limited map control. He's also running out of wood at the back of his base, so soon he's gonna have to move out towards that new forest. And this new tower that's being built right now, he's going to try and stop that. And this could be the source of the first engagement in between the two players, really. This is the first battle of the game, if I'm not mistaken. The Mangonels and the Springolds are hiding behind that forest, though. And this could be a dangerous position to be in for VortiX, because he doesn't have a line of sight on the opponent's Mangonel. First volley comes out from Beastyqt, takes down 1 Springold, no retaliation by VortiX. And as I said, if you hide that Mangonel behind the forest, it's still able to shoot at the crossbows, but the Springolds won't be able to take it down. Looks like Beastyqt is going to send some villagers south, trying to wall in the opponent. Villager count still in the favor of VortiX here. Army numbers 42 versus 58 though. Beastyqt's got a ton of siege over here. And is that a castle? You bet it is a castle. Abyssids can heal their units near that castle. And this forward position here for Beastyqt would be a very strong staging ground for new assaults. He tried a castle drop style play in the previous, or in one of the previous games. That didn't work, but this one, he has a much better economy behind this one. He's much more well set up for this. And I think VortiX might not even see this. Even if he sees this, I don't think that he has the tools to stop it. This tower is going to be stopped, but this castle is going up. And indeed, VortiX has no idea about this one. And the next step, I think, for Beastyqt would be to just go Springolds and Trebuchets. He can make Springolds on the battlefield. You make a siege workshop and you start making trebuchets and you start shelling their buildings. Because this forces your opponent to make a move. Somewhat similarly to what you have seen in the King of the Hill game, where you just have a strong defensive position, a castle, you have a lot of Springolds take down the opponent's siege with, and then you have to force your opponent to make a move. And that's exactly what you're seeing over here. Villagers were dispatched to take down this tower on the south. Man-at-arms are being sent over there to harass. And on the north, you can also see that there is an attempt to wall in the enemy here. Looks like the villagers will have to make it back home here, because now they're being pushed from the right side. Meanwhile, VortiX is pushing out of his base. Oh boy. Bit of a positional warfare coming in here. Are those forces on VortiX heading straight to the base of the enemy? That could be very risky, but it could also pay off really fast. Because there's a chance, there's a window for these units to do some damage at the base of Beastyqt. But how large of a damage? That's the question. Most of those are crossbows and Springolds. Those won't be able to do much against the eco of the opponent. If you got some Palace Guards supporting them, sure thing. And it looks like Beastyqt is going to have to readjust his army here, trying to stop this counterattack. Beastyqt, no trebuchets coming in for him right now. He wanted to push the opponent's base, but the counterattack here from VortiX, at least the threat of the counterattack, is something that's forcing him to call off his forces. His opponent, VortiX, is running out of wood inside his base, and he's gonna have to work towards the new forest. Here comes the big battle in the middle. Springle's trading off, but there's no mangonels. There's no mangonels at all here for Beasty. With the first mangonel setting up, now you're seeing those crossbows fall back. First shot misses. Springles will be taken down by Beasty's forces. Now the mangonel can start picking off the crossbows. Crossbows will trade as well with the crossbows over here, and there is no retreat path, because the retreat path to a certain extent is cut off by the towers, which will make it much more difficult for VortiX to save these forces. Now, Beasty should not sacrifice his man-at-arms here, because those are being picked apart by the crossbows, as it can be seen. But it seems like we're going to have a pretty even battle in the end. Both sides lost a lot of springolds. The key thing is that Beasty lost a lot of man-at-arms here to the crossbows. Man-at-arms that may not have been necessary to lose. Mangonel could set up against those crossbows though, and one thing that we don't have right now for VortiX is springolds. And with the volley coming out from that mangonel, many villagers will be heavily damaged here. Suddenly the food eco of VortiX is getting pushed, and villagers are being pulled to take down that mangonel. Crossbows will try to focus them down. Mangonel being pulled back. Repair villager also scrambled for defense. And you see the crossbows are just trying to take down those damaged villagers here. As you see, VortiX desperately trying to move on towards that wood line. He's going to sacrifice his villager lead here to take down that mangonel. That he succeeds in. He's also focusing down the springolds now. Crossbows trying to finish them off. Men-at-arms coming in to reinforce. Looks like one springboard might be taken down, but it seems that all of them will survive. Tower now with arrow slits, and the other tower with springboard emplacements, also decimating the numbers of VortiX here. And look at the southern part. There was a volleying effort here. Yup, look at that! The diversion. The diversion by Beasty, and then just the ability to volley these guys in. What a move. What an absolutely ludicrous move. And that is one of the things that Beasty does. Sometimes he does some cheesy things like this because, as I said, he's the ladder hero. He's the guy that plays ladder all day, all night. And sometimes on ladder games, you do something cheesy like that. Big battle coming in. Mangonels unleashing fire. That's gonna be a lot of dead villagers out there. More of them getting pushed back for the time being. Fortified tower standing strong. And you see those two men-at-arms just entering that arena out there. This is looking very grim right now for VortiX. Looks like his Springboard is going to be able to take down one Mangonel here, but the man-at-arms are starting to poke away at VortiX's eco. VortiX is down to 77 eco, with limited access to wood, and now two trebuchets are shelling his buildings as well. In fact, one of the TCs are gone. I think we can pretty much chalk in Beastyqt as one of the finalists for N4C, because VortiX is breaking out of that quarantine for the time being. He's still trying to push on the north, but his position is getting worse and worse right now. He is being denied from all key resources. His base is being trapped down as we speak. And you get the feel that if Beast is able to just refocus his army here, he's gonna be able to take a good fight. Behind this one, Beast is picking up relics. And everything is just slowly falling into the hands of Beasty here. Springolds will open fire against each other. That's gonna be an even trade between the two. But the Mangonels, 4 Mangonels, ready to fire here. 4 Mangonels can wipe out that army in just a matter of seconds. Here comes the first volley. The crossbows are getting forced back. First volley misses target. Springboard now opening up on the Mangonel as the men-at-arms of our red player, Beasty, will be sent in to deal with the Springboard. One Mangonel is down, the tower is still standing strong. Behind this one, VortiX's eco is getting rampaged as the Mangonels will once again set up against those crossbows. Springboard is taken down, Mangonel fire once again opening up on those crossbows, and those crossbows just have nowhere to go. They're being fired upon by Mangonels, they're being fired upon by crossbows. And it looks like VortiX just doesn't have the juice to stop his opponent. 20 army out here, Mangonel fire opening up. And you could see VortiX that he doesn't believe in this one. If you could see his face cam for a brief moment, he knows very well that this might be gone. This game might be gone here. Another volley coming out here, wiping out the villagers. Crossbows are still alive, hoping to keep the dream alive here. Mangonel fire once again opening up. Crossbows take a big hit. All the villagers are being pulled. That's the last hurrah over here. But I think, as I said, we can mark Beastyqt as the first finalist of the $100,000 N4C main event. VortiX put up a crazy fight, and this was one of the best sets of the entire tournament. And holy potatoes, Beasty is happy. With that, he can't believe this. So many close games. So crazy of the entire set. If you just go back all the way to game number 1, game number 2, both of these players had the options to win games. Both of these players had some very crazy games that were won and lost. Ultimately, Beastyqt is able to take this win with the Abbasid dynasty over the Chinese. An absolute ludicrous series. It was a set where it went down to 7 games. Absolutely spectacular performance from both players. And really, I think it's a sad thing that one of these players have to lose, because let's be honest, both of these players deserve to be here. Someone has to lose. Starting off with the Hill and Dale game more than 4 hours ago, it was an HRE mirror, big battles left and right. The Landsknechte fighting over there, the Mangonel fire, Dry Arabia game, the crazy Arabia game where Beasty almost made a comeback with the English, but that VortiX was able to finish it off. The Mongolian Heights game with the Rus versus English. Then the crazy Lipany game where Beasty was fighting it out until the end. Ultimately, VortiX was able to close it out. The King of the Hill game, such a high level of gameplay there from Beasty, his best game by far. Then the Highview game by VortiX, just the non-stopping pressure and just finishing off Beasty in Feudal Age. And then the Altai game, which was now won by Beastyqt. He's the grand finalist. He's the first grand finalist of N4C. But congratulations to VortiX, because one thing is sure, he has definitely shown that he is one of the best Age of Empires 4 players out there. And as I said, I think on a different day, VortiX could have won this set. 2 exceptional players, 1 exceptional set, and 1 winner.